All right, I think we can go ahead and get things started. Hello, everyone. Oh my God, I had to fight so hard with my streaming software before starting this, but we're finally here. I got it to work. It's all good. Only 24 minutes late. That's not too bad. Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to our second monthly Media of the Month Club live stream. I am so excited to be here today. It has been about a month since we've last chatted. It's been a really busy month for me. I wanted to check in to see how all of you are doing. Magical is here in the chat as always. Thank you so much for being here, Magical. Let's see, got a couple folks on YouTube. Let's see if I got a couple folks on Twitch. We are multi-streaming today on both platforms, so wherever you want to watch. And at first, I was planning for today's stream to actually have like different audio set up for both the YouTube and the Twitch stream, but one, couldn't get it to work quite the way I wanted it to, and two, I think that we'll be fine with just doing the same audio on both streams. So as you all know, today we are going to be talking about OK Computer by Radiohead, the album, and this is going to be our media of the month for this month, and hopefully some of you guys got a chance to take a listen to it so you can share your thoughts and opinions in the discussion today. But you know, YouTube tends to be fairly strict when it comes to like flagging copyright and whatnot, so what we're going to do today is when we do talk about the songs, I'm going to do my best to just do like very short clips and keep the commentary you know, transformative so that we are following in fair use laws, and hopefully we can, you know, contest any copyright flags that we might get, because we are technically following the rules, and yeah, can't get too mad at me for that. So we are going to be playing some clips from the songs later in the stream today, so hopefully we'll see if YouTube strikes me down or not when we do that. But this is an experiment, you know. This is a new project that we're doing with Media of the Month. This is only the second time it's happening, so there's still a lot to learn for me. It's a process, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes as we go along. Hey Tune, thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate you being here. First of all, how are you all doing? It has been a crazy month. It has been a really busy month. It has been a chaotic month in the world. But overall for me, it's been a decent month personally. Work has been really busy. It's like a really busy time for my job right now, and like everyone is getting sick in my office right now, so PSA, mask up if you need to. You know, COVID is still out there. There's the updated vaccines you should definitely get as well too. I think I'm getting mine sometime in the next month or so. So definitely stay up to date with all of that. It's getting bad out there. Even for me today, like I was on the fence about streaming today because I've had kind of like the sore throat for the past few days, and I knew I was going to be doing a lot of talking during the stream today, and I was like, oh gosh, am I really going to like F up my voice if I really push myself? But you know, this morning I had kind of a scratchy throat. I kind of cleared it out a little bit, so we'll see how it goes. We'll see how I hold up for now. What else have I been up to in the meantime? My birthday was earlier this month, which again I'll be mentioning in a little bit as I talk about the fundraiser in a moment. But my birthday was earlier this month. Last week I hung out with my friends in the park. We just did like a super low-key like picnic in the park, because last year I did like this whole production for my 30th birthday and like went all out and put on this whole production. And this year I was like, okay, The theme for this year is low effort, low energy. We're just going to go to the park, get some pizza and hang out and go to dinner afterwards and have a good time. So it was really nice. I got to see a bunch of my friends and just have a nice chill time, which was very sweet. So that was really nice. So that was kind of the highlight of the month. Other than that, it's been crazy, chaotic. I'm sure all of you have been reading the news as well too. But yeah, I've been hanging on to these few things as my respite for hanging on during this month, is just hanging out with my friends, trying to keep afloat at work, and yeah, just being grateful for the things in my life that do bring me joy and bring me light, which includes all of y'all in the stream. So thank y'all for being here once again. Tune says, I feel like my life has been aimless and stagnant lately. I totally get what you mean, man. Totally feel you on that. It can definitely be hard to feel like we're making any kind of forward momentum when the world is so chaotic. But something that I will tell you that I often tell myself is that in the day to day, it can be really hard to see your own progress, especially from your own perspective, right? Because like you are in it day to day, right? Like it's kind of like if you're swimming in the ocean, right? And like obviously you look behind you and you look in front of you and all you see is the water because you've just been like swimming for so long. But when you zoom out and you like take a step back, you can actually see like, okay, you actually have made progress. Like maybe you're 1,000 feet away from the shore and like when you look back, it all looks the same. But when you zoom out and take a look, it is progress and you have been moving forward, even if it's not at the pace that you would have liked, or maybe it's not as fast as other people, but you know, comparison is the thief of joy. So that's what I would encourage you to do if you're feeling like that, is just to take a moment, take a step back, and just sort of try to be as objective as you can, right? Like just really acknowledge like, okay, yes, like maybe I haven't made that much progress in like the past month or something, but zooming out in the past like year or so, I can see that I've done like all this stuff, right? So that would be my suggestion if you're feeling stagnant. Always finish my weekend thing and say, well, I got nothing done, I'm getting really lazy. Yeah, I feel you, but what I would encourage you to is like, be kind to yourself. You deserve to rest also. Like I know you also work full time too, and like it's hard to make videos and do YouTube and make streams and content while you're also working full time. Like it's exhausting, it's a lot to balance. So give yourself some grace. That's what I've been trying to do. That's also why I've been doing like this live stream project instead of like working on videos, because it's just been a little bit easier for me. And then like once I sort of get into the rhythm of things, I'm gonna like start working on videos again. So yeah, just be patient with yourself. You know, I'm trying to be patient with myself too. I know that there's folks out there that would love to see a new video from me, but I know that, you know, I'm on my own calendar, I'm on my own schedule. I'm not going to rush myself for what other people want. So yeah, just be kind to yourself. Take a moment to step back and acknowledge all the progress you have made. And yeah, I think like we can all feel stagnant sometimes. I do have a Blue Sky account Magical, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm really bad about checking it and updating it. I really should be better about posting about the streams and stuff. I will admit I did not post about this stream on Blue Sky or on Twitter this time around, and I do kind of regret it a little bit. So maybe I'll just do that right now really quickly. I'll just say like, hey, by the way, we're streaming and it's a charity live stream. Let me do that right now. Thank you for reminding me. All right, let's see here. Hey, I forgot to post this. But I'm live right now doing our second media of the month club and fundraising for Heal Palestine. Come on through to talk about Radiohead's OK Computer. And then I will share the live stream link. Boop boop ba doop ba doop ba doop ba doop ba doop boop ba doop ba doop. Blue Sky. Okay, we'll do Blue Sky. And then we'll do Twitter. I really do need to get better about updating socials and whatnot. My username is Vikram Off Track. Both on Blue Sky and on Twitter. Okay, I have just posted. Thank you for reminding me. Ugh. Oh, Magical, I see you posted on Twitter as well, too. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that a lot. That means a lot to me. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Tune says, I just feel like once I do something so ambitious, I always have to match and outdo that. Not necessarily video making, but something making a name for myself in the public. Yeah, I get that feeling. I totally understand that feeling. Yeah. All I can, yeah. I totally feel the same way sometimes. That's really all I can say. You know, I feel like I can give sort of empty sounding advice and say, like, you know, be kind to yourself. You don't always have to like put that kind of pressure on you. You don't always like have to outdo yourself every time. Like, obviously, logically, like all that is understandable and like very easy to wrap your head around, but it can be hard to shake the feeling, right? Like that's something that I'm kind of learning in therapy right now, is like understanding and like the knowledge, having knowledge of information and having understanding of a feeling, or having understanding through a feeling, are kind of like two different experiences, right? So like you can kind of acknowledge on a logical level, like, yeah, I don't need to put that much pressure on myself because it's all just sort of like self-imposed and like it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Like you can kind of logically tell yourself that, but you have this like anxiety, right? You have this like feeling that feels like, oh, but I gotta outdo myself. I gotta do better. I gotta improve. I gotta put myself out there. So it can be hard to reconcile those things. So all I'll say is that I totally get what you're saying and I know how you feel. But try to hold both of these truths at the same time, I guess, is my best advice. All right. Anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about the fundraiser that I am hosting today. So, like I mentioned earlier, this was my birthday this month. And so for my birthday celebration, I decided to do a fundraiser stream. And the fundraiser is being donated to the organization Heal Palestine. I was very happy to see that Heal Palestine does have their own kind of like website infrastructure to host fundraisers and to set up your own page with a fundraiser and whatnot. So I went ahead and did that. And the pinned chat comment on YouTube, as well as in the description on YouTube, has the link to the fundraiser, and it's going to be on screen in a little bit later as well too. So please, 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 if you have anything to spare, please donate to the fundraiser and donate to this great cause. And I want to talk a little bit about the organization and why I decided to choose this organization and why it has like resonated with me so much. Too, and I've not seen Legends of Guinevere yet, but it's on my list. I will get to it for sure. Okay, so I wanted to share a little bit about this organization called Heal Palestine, and why I chose this organization is the work that they did really inspired me. So obviously right now with the genocide that Israel is inflicting on Gaza and Palestine, it's ramping up. It's getting a lot worse. For anyone who's even just like tangentially following the news, you'll probably have heard about some of the things that's going on over there. You know, the UN just declared that it's officially a genocide, and the death toll has been increasingly ramping, especially for children and children under 5, which is particularly heartbreaking. And as I've been reading the news, I'm sure a lot of you can resonate with this feeling of, man, things suck so much right now and things are so horrible and so terrible for so many people, but I am just this individual, this one person all the way across the other side of the globe. Like, what can I even do, right? Like, what power do I have as an individual to fight against something that's so colossal and so systematic and so institutionalized that it feels impossible, right? It feels impossible to go up against a giant like this. And I will admit, I feel that a lot. I feel that a lot, not just when it comes to this specific conflict, but I feel that a lot when it comes to, you know, just so many of the things that are going on in general, right? Like the Trump administration in the US, the conflicts going on overseas, the way that like online discourse has, you know, amplified and platformed some of the most extreme and worst sides of these arguments. And it can sometimes just feel like the world is against you and nothing you ever do is going to matter. And, you can try your best to make a difference, but it's only like a drop in the ocean, right? Compared to all the catastrophe that's going on in the world. So that's a feeling that I feel a lot. And the thing that's dangerous about that is it can often leave you feeling hopeless and nihilistic. And those feelings can often lead to feeling like you can't do anything, and it demotivates you, right? Like it makes it so that you don't want to do anything because you're like, well, what's the point anyway, right? And whenever I feel like that, I try to remember this story that I heard when I was a kid. This story, like, I don't even remember who told it to me. It was probably like one of my grandparents or something like that. But this story like really resonated with me when I was a kid, and it's something that I like always still remember whenever I have this feeling. But the story goes like this. A man is walking along the beach at sunset. It's a beautiful night. And as he's walking, the tides are coming in. And as the water is coming onto the shore, it comes up and then it pulls away. And every time it comes up, it leaves behind a littering of hundreds of starfish. So every time the water and the tide comes up onto the shore, it leaves behind these starfish and then recedes back. And then there's just these hundreds of starfish that are littering the shore of the beach. And the man is walking along the shore and he's looking down and he's seeing this. And he's noticing that these starfish are being left behind and exposed, you know, to the air. So he starts every few steps as he's walking. He bends down and he picks up a starfish and just sort of gently tosses it back into the ocean. And he keeps doing this, right? He keeps taking a few feet, keeps walking a few steps. He bends down, he picks up a starfish, and he tosses it back into the ocean. And as he's doing this, the tide doesn't stop, right? The tide is continuing on at the same pace. And, you know, every time the tide comes up, it's leaving behind hundreds of starfish. And this guy, he's just walking along and he's tossing back maybe like 5 or 10 every time he's walking around. And clearly, right, he is outpaced, right? The number of starfish that are coming onto the shore are vastly outnumbered to the amount that he's able to toss back into the ocean. And this other guy notices him doing this, and he's kind of confused. And so he stops the man and says, hey, why are you doing this? Why are you tossing these starfish back into the ocean when there's hundreds more that come up onto the shore for every 2 that you're tossing back? Like, what's the point, right? Why are you trying to help these starfish in this way? And the man just sort of smiles and looks back at the person who asked this question. And he bends down and he picks up another starfish from the ground. And he holds it up to the man and says, I know that I'm not going to be able to make a difference for all of these hundreds of starfish that are out on the beach right now. But I know that by picking this one up and tossing it back into the ocean, I am making a world of difference for this one individual starfish. And then he tosses it back into the ocean. And that story really stuck with me as a kid and really helped me internalize this lesson of every little bit counts. Every action you take makes a world of difference to someone, right? Every act of kindness has a ripple effect and can make a difference to someone else's life. And when I have those feelings of hopelessness, when I have those feelings of the world is just too messed up and too chaotic and too broken and too cruel and there's nothing I can do, I try to go back to that story and I try to think about, okay, what is within the means of my control? What am I able to do with the abilities I have? You know, that man, he has 2 legs, he has 2 arms, he has the ability to toss at least a handful of starfish back. Those are the tools at his disposal and he's going to use them, right? And I feel like Heal Palestine really embodies that ethos of doing the best we can for the people we can with the tools that we have available and making a difference for those handful of people that we are able to reach. Yes, to and exactly that feeling. The days that you feel just so defeated and there's not enough counteraction that you can do. That's when I try to remember this story. And so I'm going to share an article actually that I read recently, and I'm going to move over to my media of the month display here, but let me go ahead and share. So I read the local news a lot, and as I read the local news, I came across this article that was in my local newspaper. So the Mercury News is the local newspaper for my area that I read. And I read this story and it really spoke to me. 3 Palestinian children arrive in the Bay Area for medical treatment of injuries suffered from war. And the Bay Area is where I live, right? So these kids, you know, rode on top of wheelchairs, holding up peace signs as they exited San Francisco International Airport. These girls that have come in, the pair of Palestinian children, 6, 14, and a boy who's 8, right? So these are literally small children. And volunteers greeted them with chants of Free Palestine, with soccer balls and balloons, and waited to have them arrive homes. And you know, they're coming from traumatic circumstances, malnourishment. So this is really awesome, right? Like over the past year and a half, Heal Palestine has brought 63 injured Palestinian children to receive treatment in the US. And the organization also previously brought a 19-year-old woman to the Bay Area as she received a prosthetic leg and eye. So these kids and young adults are getting sent to places all over the US, to other countries, and getting medical care that they so desperately need and that they're not able to get in Gaza. And these evacuations are really difficult to do. So yeah, 17 out of 100 children are malnourished. This 14-year-old girl suffered 2nd and 3rd degree burns across her body, and suffers from malnutrition. So the thing that really spoke to me, right, is like the children and their families have to come to the United States on B2 visas. A B2 visa is a tourism visa that can be obtained to get medical treatment, among other things. The children must be approved by 4 governmental entities to make it into the medical treatment: the Palestinian Authority, the Israeli government, the Egyptian or Jordanian government, depending on which border they have to cross, and the American government. So this is not easy, right? Like this organization has to go through so much bureaucracy and so much just like obstacles that are standing in the way of something that should be so simple, right? Just being able to get kids who are in danger the medical care that they deserve. And yet they have to go through all of these hoops and all of these, you know, like it's like an obstacle course in a way, right? Like having to jump through all these bureaucracies and these governments that you have to like pass through. And you know, any one of them can say no and deny the patient. So the fact that it takes so much work and effort to do what seems like so little, right? Like it seems like you have to do all this paperwork, go through all these governments, go through all this bureaucracy, jump through all these hoops just to get like 3 kids to the US to get medical care that they so desperately deserve, right? Or so desperately need. So when I read this story, it really spoke to me, and it really harkened back to that story I mentioned about the man and the starfish. Like these people are literally just doing the hardest work that they can with the tools that they have available to provide life-saving care to at least the handful of people that they're able to reach. And I know to these individual kids and their families, it does make a world of difference, right? Like, this is literally changing their lives and giving them a chance to live their lives. And so I really, this organization got founded just a couple years ago, I think in like 2023 or 2022 or something like that. So it's a really new organization. They've just started doing this work, and I wanted to give them a shout out, and I wanted to highlight their work and really do what I can, right, with the tools that I have at my disposal. You know, I have this platform where I'm going to talk about Radiohead, who has some not so great views when it comes to this conflict. And so, like, if I'm going to be talking about and platforming these people who are spreading this kind of rhetoric, I don't want to use my platform for that. And so I'm going to use my platform the way that I want to use it, and the tools that I have at my disposal to help the people that I think need it the most. And so that is really why I wanted to do this fundraiser on this stream. That's why I wanted to support this organization as much as I wanted to and as much as I could with the tools that I have available, because I feel like that's what they're doing. And that's really inspiring to me. And I want to hopefully inspire other people to fight through those feelings of hopelessness and fight through those feelings of no matter what I do, it's not enough, because it doesn't matter if it's not enough, quote unquote, because that's such an arbitrary measurement. It matters to someone. It matters to some people. It's enough for some people. And that's really what I want to hammer home here. So yeah, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Big shout out to Heal Palestine. Again, the donation link is in the chat and in the description on YouTube. And now it is on screen, healpalestine.app.neoncrm.com/OKComputer, MOTM, OK Computer Media of the Month. So please check out the donation link. Please check out the organization, see the amazing work that they're doing, and please support them in any way you can, because they are doing just life-saving, miraculous, awesome work. So thank you to Heal Palestine and all the people who are doing awesome work there. I hope that I can do my best to support you. And also, full disclosure as well too, I made the fundraising goal for today's stream to be $310 because I'm turning 31, right? So 31 with a 0 at the end of it. That's how I came up with that number. So I do have a handful of goals that you can see on the stream here. If we reach these certain thresholds, then I will follow through on some of these challenges / goals that we get. So the first thing that here is all the donors are going to get their name on a shirt. So I'm going to get a shirt printed, or maybe I'm going to get a blank shirt. I was going to try to do this before the stream, but I didn't have time, unfortunately. But I'm going to get a t-shirt that I'm going to write everyone's names on as a big thank you to everyone who donates. So anyone who donates with a name, I'll write your name on a t-shirt. And then if we reach $75, I'm going to wear a silly hat for the remainder of the stream. If we reach $120, I will do a poll for a bunch of characters, and I will do some artwork for a character that you all choose. And that'll get posted at a later time too. I'm not going to do that on stream. And then if we get to $160, I will let the audience choose what my next video is going to be. I have like a bunch of videos in the works right now, and so I'll do a poll and I will let all of you all choose which one is going to be the next video that I publish. If we reach so these last 3 are 3 that I actually genuinely don't want to do. So like, if you really want to see me suffer, and if you really want to see me like humiliate myself, then please donate and please share the donation link around so we can get to those goals. But if we reach 235 goals, if we end up actually making it to that number, I will put a pie in my face. You know, I've got some whipped cream set aside that's ready for this, and I will freaking pie my face right here on stream for all of your entertainment. And then if we reach $270, I will eat a spicy pepper. I'm not 100% sure if I'm gonna do that on stream today or not, just because like I mentioned earlier today, I was feeling a little under the weather. My throat was a bit sore, so I don't know if I want to quite subject myself to that today. But if I don't do it today, then I will post a video of myself doing it at another time. And then if we reach our end goal of $310, I will end the stream today with singing karaoke one of the songs off the album, I'm pretty sure, is what I'm gonna do. Also, hi Tom, thanks for joining the chat today. Hold on, let me read your chats. I can't read it for some reason. Donated, but it's not showing in the progress bar. I think I have to manually refresh it. Yes, I do have to manually refresh it. So yes, we made it to 3%, $10 raised. Thank you so much to Tom who donated, M and L who donated. Lots of folks who are coming in. I appreciate it. Lots of friends who are coming in. I appreciate it. So yeah, it looks like I do just have to kind of manually refresh it every so often. Tom, I don't think your donation has come through yet, but we'll check on it. We'll check on it every once in a while. I think it just takes some time to update, but thank you for donating. Thank you for everyone who is donating and sharing the link. Sharing also helps a lot. Really appreciate it. I honestly might just wear this silly hat earlier if we whoops, I didn't mean to close the progress bar there. I might just share the or wear the hat if we don't reach that goal anyway, just because I made this silly hat myself and I'm quite proud of the progress of or I'm quite proud of the hat that I made for myself for the stream. So I might just wear that anyway if we reach a certain threshold. But I'm gonna be shouting out the links and the charities every once in a while. So yeah, please donate, please reach out, please share the link if you can. Thank you to everyone who's donated so far. Let's try refreshing one more time, see if Tom's donation has come through. Not quite yet. We'll check on it. All right. So before we get into talking about the album for today, I do want to just sort of, I kind of touched on this earlier. It's not showing on the website either. Well, let's give it a couple minutes. We'll see if it updates, and we'll check on it every once in a while. Kind of worried something went wrong, but it took the money out of my PayPal. If for some reason it doesn't show up, I will follow through. I will double check on it. Yeah, definitely if your money's already left the PayPal, then it should go through, but we'll check on it for sure. Yeah, so before we get into the album today, I did want to just briefly talk about, and here, I'll go back to the screen for this chat here. I did just briefly want to talk about Radiohead and a little bit of the elephant in the room when it comes to their views on the Israel-Palestine conflict / genocide that is going on. And yes, Tom, I saw your message earlier. Hold on. That your message earlier, worth noting that the UN ruling has made a huge difference. The fact that Macron and Starmer both acknowledged Palestinian statehood is incredible, and even Microsoft has stopped supplying Israel with cloud services. So yeah, definitely testing 1 2 3. Okay, there we go. I think it's back. Why did my audio just randomly cut out? That's so strange. Okay, well, hopefully we're back now. Yeah, just really briefly, just wanted to talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to Radiohead. So Radiohead is one of the biggest bands of our modern day and age. You know, I think it's like not really that controversial to say that. They're one of the most popular, well-known, influential, kind of like canonical acts of music, at least in the alternative slash rock world. So it's really impossible, I would say, to cancel them, I guess, for lack of a better word. And like, to be clear, also, I'm not trying to cancel them. I'm not trying to say that they're evil. I'm not trying to say that anyone who listens to them is a bad person. I'm not trying to say that they deserve to be like thrown off the face of the planet or anything like that. Like, I really want to be careful with my words here, because obviously their music is such a staple in the musical world. So I think it's kind of impossible to try to cancel them. But that being said, I think it is important to be critical of the people who we look up to, the people whose work we admire, the people who we idolize. There's a lot of people who tend to excuse bad behavior or not hold people accountable for things because they put them up on this pedestal, or they have this sort of like parasocial kind of relationship with them, where they like idolize people. And so there's a lot of people who are willing to exempt the members of Radiohead from criticism, but I feel like I am the kind of person that wants to be honest with myself and be honest with all of you as well too, right? So like, basically, when it comes to Radiohead and their views on Palestine, right? So something that's interesting to note is that when Radiohead first came up in popularity, their biggest single at the time, right? Everyone knows Creep. Everyone knows that song. It's one of their most well-known and popular songs of all time. And what's interesting about that song is that it actually didn't really get popular at first when they first tried to make it big, when they first started trying to tour. In the UK, that song was like not really that popular, and it only started getting popular once they started playing that song on the radio in Tel Aviv in Israel. So already off the bat, there's like this connection between Radiohead and Israel that really can't be ignored. And in the early days too, Johnny Greenwood, who is the lead guitarist of Radiohead, married an Israeli woman, so his wife is Israeli. And also his nephew served in the IOF, and passed away during his time there. So obviously there's like this personal connection, this personal trauma that informs all their views, right? And obviously Tom York and Johnny Greenwood are like joined at the hip. So anything that Johnny does, like Tom more or less supports. And Radiohead has gotten criticism for many years. I think even starting back in like 2003 or 2007, like back in the early 2000s, they were playing shows in Israel. And they got criticism for it back then too, by folks like Roger Waters and other prominent musicians who were able to acknowledge at the time how problematic that was. And basically, essentially, like why that's problematic is when you are an artist that is well known, well established, and has a air of legitimacy to you, and if you go and play in places like Israel or these places with oppressive governments, you are essentially whitewashing their atrocities and excusing them and making light of them in a certain way. I don't have the best words right now. I've there's lots of people, lots of scholars who have explained this idea of sort of like whitewashing and art washing also is a term I've heard before too. Kind of like legitimizing this society in a way by saying sort of like, oh, hey, you know, like, look at this. They have concerts, they have music, they enjoy these things too. They're just as legitimate as a country as the rest of the world, right? And that's just not true when it comes to places like Israel. It's just not, it's not a fair assessment. And it's not honest to say, well, just because we don't agree with the government doesn't mean we can't perform a show for the citizens there. Like, that's just not a good faith argument. And I feel like this discourse is also coming up recently too. I've been seeing it as well in kind of the comedy world. There's like this comedy festival that's happening in Saudi Arabia, and a bunch of comics are kind of getting some criticism right now for agreeing to perform there. And it's the same thing, right? Like, you're going to perform for a government that has like killed journalists and like will probably like execute you too if you say the wrong thing about the wrong person, right? So it's kind of like, why are you selling yourself out to legitimize this form of oppression? And the fact that someone like Johnny Greenwood can go around and say like, art is the most important thing, and just because like some people live in an oppressive government doesn't mean that they don't deserve art, and we just don't want to censor artists. We think that every artist should be able to perform anywhere and everywhere. And it's just kind of giving like all lives matter kind of thing. Like, it's really just not acknowledging the context and the desperate need that is there from the Palestinians to stop this kind of conflict, to stop the oppression, to stop the genocide. So the fact that someone like Johnny Greenwood is kind of so, in my opinion, has his head so far up his ass, where all he can kind of like acknowledge is his own personal experiences and his own personal relationships, as well as this faux sacred idea of like art beyond everything else, right? Like, I think like these two things in tandem have kind of led him to this belief system. You know, liberal Zionism is kind of this belief system that some people will argue is a bit more humane, is a bit more like understanding towards the Palestinian struggle, and maybe even somewhere along in there's like people who say like, oh, we want a two-state solution. But the thing with liberal Zionism that's kind of bullshit is, man, I really recommend everyone watches Lindsay Ellis's video on Miss Rachel and how the news talks about this conflict, because I feel like her video is just like the definitive video on YouTube right now that is able to articulate like why the discourse around this type of genocide is so dangerous, to not acknowledge the plain truth of it all. So it is really disappointing to see folks like Johnny Greenwood, who should know better, right? He's a grown-ass man. He should know better. Like, despite his personal experiences, despite his worldview around his limited scope, he has the same resources as all of us do. He can read about the conflict. He can talk to scholars. He can talk to historians. He can talk to journalists. Tom York has gotten approached by so many people who want to have a dialogue with him, who want to explain to him why he's wrong. And he doesn't want to hear it. He instead wants to be defensive. And he instead wants to prioritize his own feelings and his own ego, instead of having the moral backbone to acknowledge that this is not about him. This is not about his feelings. This is not about his opinion. This is about the people who are suffering. This is about the people who are dying. This is about the children who are dying and starving and struggling. And the fact that he's centering himself in this entire discussion, it's cowardly. It's literally spineless. It's just completely lack of moral backbone whatsoever. And it's incredibly disappointing because there's so much in their music that is so thematically relevant to what's going on in the world right now. And so there's a level of hypocrisy when you listen to their music that acknowledges, you know, the way the government works, the way that capitalism rules over everything, the way that these conflicts get distorted in the media, and the way that people talk about them, like minimize these atrocities. Like, all of those things are themes within their music, and yet they go around and don't acknowledge the truth of the reality of what's going on. And instead they want to be cowards and protect their own egos and their own like sense of superiority instead of prioritizing amplifying how to actually help in this conflict. And so I wanted to acknowledge that. I wanted to just get that elephant out of the room right off the bat before we start talking about the music, because I am not the kind of person that will separate the art from the artist. I am not the kind of person that will ignore what people are materially doing. What are the material effects on the world that they're having for the sake of just, oh, I want to enjoy their music. And I know that there's a lot of people out there who think like that, who think like, oh, I just want to enjoy their work. I just want to enjoy their music. I don't want to think about the artists or the people behind it. And to those people, I would say, like, wake up. You know, you really can't separate these things. You really can't you can't have art without the artist. And so how do you separate those things? At least that's my opinion. That's my view on it, right? And so to me, how I reconcile it is like, yes, I can love their music. Yes, I can love the messages in their music. And I can have that resonate with me on a personal level. But that doesn't mean I have to worship. And that doesn't mean I have to put on a pedestal everything that the artist and the members who are making this music are saying and doing. And some people might also argue, like, why do you put your energy into talking about this? Why do you feel the need to condemn these artists for their political views when you should be putting your energy into people who can actually like make a difference, right? Like, why are you not criticizing like Netanyahu and Trump and like all this stuff? And it's like, first of all, we can do both. I have been doing both, certainly. I have been both, you know, being very vocal to my government and my representatives to as much as I can, to the extent that I can, and also talking about celebrities and influencers, right? People who do have a power over the culture to steer the way that these discourses get talked about. So I think that we can do both. I think that we can acknowledge both. And I think that regarding like the art washing and the whitewashing side of it too, like that is not something that we can ignore. Like music, whether we like it or not, is an extremely powerful mode of communication. It can teach things to people. It can make you feel things. Like there's a reason that, you know, these mega churches and stuff always open with like these concerts of musicians, because they understand that music does have an emotional power to it. And so an art, right, has an emotional power to it. So I think it's unfair, and I think it's reductive to say don't waste your time criticizing artists and celebrities when you should be focusing on politicians and the people who have power, because I think that artists and celebrities to an extent also do have power, and I think it's worth talking about. And not to mention too that for people like me who are like fans of Radiohead and who are disappointed at this kind of lack of moral character from them, like it is kind of personal in a way, right? Like I think it's unfair to say like you shouldn't care about that, because like the music does mean a lot to me and it does resonate with me. And of course I want to listen to things and support people that share the same values as me and have a personal connection to me in this way, even though I don't know them personally. Like it would be it would be really daft to say that I don't have a connection to Radiohead, because like the things that their music has done for me, right? It has formed this connection. And so I think it's fair for people to want better of the artists that they look up to, of the artists that they admire. And I think it's fair that there are Radiohead fans that are disappointed that this has been their reaction. And so, yeah, anyway, I feel like I've kind of said my soapbox already. I won't say anything else really about it at this point. Let me catch up with the chat as well, too. And yes, Tom, you have a really great point. It's contributing economically to their regime as well, too. No different from the Queen playing in apartheid South Africa. You have to draw the battle line somewhere, and it's cowardly to just accept the bloody dollar. Absolutely, 100%. It's blood money, right? If they're playing in Israel, they've got blood on their hands. Absolutely, 100%. Let's see here. Yeah, you saw that video too, the Lindsay Ellis video. Yeah, it's a fantastic video. Highly, highly recommend it. It's 2 hours long. It's heavy. It's hard to sit through. But you know, I watched it in pieces and in chunks, so I got through it after like several days. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. I just went ahead and refreshed the fundraiser, and it looks like we are now up to $35, 11% raise. Thank you guys so much for donating. I got an anonymous friends. I got a tune in there as well too. So thank you guys so much for donating. Super duper appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Thank you for supporting a cause that means so much to me and is so close to my heart. Okay, give me a second. I need to drink some water. My throat is killing me. How are we all doing after that heavy discussion? Ugh. I have so much mucus in my face right now. I think like allergies are really killing me right now too, which has just been really rough. I got some coffee too, some iced coffee. My freaking throat. This is what happens when I get heated, when I get passionate about stuff. All right. Whew. Let's talk about the album, why don't we? I am actually genuinely super excited to talk about this. So, let me get to my presentation here. So welcome everyone. We are here to talk about the album of the month for this month's Media of the Month Club live stream. And as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be talking about OK Computer by the band Radiohead, who we love their music, but we don't support their views on Israel. All right, so just a little bit about Radiohead, because I do always want to acknowledge the people behind the media that we talk about. You know, last month when I talked about Pokemon Sleep, I talked about the development team. So I will talk about the band this time around. I already talked about how I don't support them and their views politically. But I do want to acknowledge that these guys are incredibly talented. They are incredibly adept musicians and have really shaped the face of music and the industry and rock music from the 90s going forward. So, of course, the members of Radiohead, Tom York is our front man. Johnny Greenwood is the lead guitarist. And I chose this picture as well, too, because honestly, Johnny Greenwood has kind of like a creepy face. Every time I see a photo of him, his face kind of scares me. So I'm like, let me choose a photo of him where like you can't really see his face. And then Colin Greenwood is Johnny's brother, and he plays the bass. Ed O'Brien does like backup guitars, vocals, all this other stuff as well too. And then Philip Selway is the drummer. Just honestly, Philip is one of the most incredible drummers that I have heard. Like Radiohead and the drums on the tracks are just incredible. Anyway, they first started as like a band in school. They were just like these 5 kids in boarding school in England, in Abington. I have no idea where that is, but they used to play every week in their like music room, and they called themselves, their original band name was called On a Friday, because they played every Friday in the music room. So they just called themselves On a Friday because that's when they would rehearse. And then eventually they would call themselves Radiohead, naming themselves after a Talking Heads song. Talking Heads is another incredible rock band from the 80s and whatnot. So they clearly got a lot of their influences from them as well too. They got a lot of early influences from their music teacher in their boarding school, where they learned about jazz and film scores and classical music and more kind of avant-garde music. And of course they took a lot of inspiration from like Talking Heads, Jeff Buckley, Nirvana, a lot of those like grunge bands at the time, REM, and many more. Tom says, it bears repeating that David Byrne and the rest of Talking Heads are extremely pro-Palestine. Yes, absolutely. We love that. We love Talking Heads. They're great. David Byrne is an icon. And they are often cited and credited as one of the foremost rock/alt bands of the 21st century. Yeah, they are I really, I'm not a musician. I'm not a music historian. I'm kind of a musician. I'm an amateur musician, but I'm not a music historian. I'm not a music theorist. So it's hard for me to articulate why Radiohead was so impactful and so influential on the music scene. There's plenty of people on YouTube who are able to articulate that. Yes, Free Palestine. Al Nick, thank you. There's lots of people who will be able to articulate why they are so influential. But basically, from my understanding and from my perspective, they have gone on to develop these incredibly intricate arrangements and have shown innovation and creativity in their songwriting in a way that I think really like pushes the bounds for like what's possible in contemporary popular music. And personally for me too, as I have been expanding my music palette and developing my ear for less common types of music, Radiohead has been such a crucial part in my own development as a musician and as a music listener, as I've been able to kind of like teach myself like how to listen to these arrangements, how to infer and interpret these kinds of progressions and whatnot. And so Radiohead has not only been an incredible journey for me personally in terms of like music development and developing my music palette, but also they have resonated with me so deeply and so emotionally and connected to me in a way that I have not connected to any other artist's music before. And that's part of why they've kind of become one of my favorite bands in recent years, because the emotions that are conveyed in their music are so varied and so nuanced and so specific that it lends this like feeling of catharsis to me, and this feeling that like I'm not alone in the world because there's these other people feeling these feelings that I'm feeling. And so I have really connected to their music in several ways, both like emotionally, spiritually, musically, intellectually. And it's such a shame that so many of the members are such disappointments that I have connected to their work in this way. It's really, it's one of those like things where it's like, doesn't quite make sense in my head, but somehow both of these things are true. You know what I mean? Oh, I don't know why this image isn't loading here, but there was a picture on here before. But talking a little bit about OK Computer, the album itself. So OK Computer was their third studio album that they released. And it was really the one that put them on the map in terms of like music credibility. The album got like real critical acclaim when it came out. It was so innovative and so interesting and so fresh and so new. This album, after their first two albums, their first two albums were fine. They were good. They got popular, especially in like the kind of rock, alt, grunge scene. But their third album, OK Computer, is what really broke them out of containment, really sent them into the mainstream popularity, and changed the way rock music was made, like, going forward. Like, I really can't understate how influential and how impactful this album was. And it can be hard for me in particular, like, going back and listening to this album and kind of like really respecting and understanding how innovative it is, because it's so easy to listen to modern music and say like, oh, it sounds so similar. But really, like, the truth of it is, right, like, the reason that modern music sounds so similar to this album is because this album is what influenced the sound of today. So I try to remember that, and I try to have some respect for that when I like listen back to this album. And what makes this album so cool and interesting is they've got these experimental strong structures, so they tend to bend the rules of traditional songwriting in all of their tracks in this album. There's always kind of like one or two things that like you wouldn't necessarily see in traditional pop writing music. They have started in this album as well too to incorporate like ambient and electronic influences as well. In their next album, Kid A, they will like really go experimental with that stuff. But in this album, they've started to incorporate some of those sounds, and that is something that like really wasn't being done in rock music prior to this album. Like having these kind of synthetic, these electronic instruments as part of the arrangements was really not common before this album. And this is really what gives this album that modern feel, that like feeling that like you listen to this album and it kind of sounds timeless in a lot of ways. Like the production of it is so clean, and the arrangements are so intricate and so fresh that it doesn't sound like an album from 1997. It sounds like an album that like came out yesterday, and it's like so amazing and such a testament to the production and the songwriting that it has like stood the test of time and still feels like a timeless contemporary rock album 20 plus years later. You know what I mean? And obviously when this album came out, it was both a commercial and critical success upon release. It won a Grammy that year for the best alternative album, and a bunch of the tracks on the album were nominated for Grammys as well. So it really is the thing that like made Radiohead what Radiohead is known as today, was because of this album. All right. Talking a little bit about like the themes and motifs of this album. So one thing that I really love about this album is that it's so cohesive. And actually, let me go ahead and read the chat before I before I move on. It's also hard to overstate how insane it is that this album became the cultural phenomenon that it is, when every song in the track list is so anti-radio. Like Paranoid Android is like 7 minutes long and it has no chorus. Yeah, totally. Like when it comes to these like these avant-garde song structures, right? Like it's so against what was like the songwriting rules of the time, right? Like, oh, when you write a song, like you have a chorus, you have some verses, and you have a bridge, and these are typically the chords that you find, and you know, typically you want to have it in a minor scale or a major scale or whatever, right? And Radiohead was like, what if we just took all these rules and just said fuck them, right? Like what if we said no song structure? What if we said let's like use minor and major chords and mix them all together, right? They really really like took the rules of songwriting and decided to bend them in creative ways to create this unique sound, right? And it's really anti what was established as popular and normal and what goes on the radio at the time, right? So that is what has made it like such a standout album in the canon of music albums. So, but why I love this album so much and why I think it's so awesome and so like, you know, like the thing is like I feel like the art of creating a cohesive album has been so lost in our day and age of streaming, because when it comes to streaming, the incentive becomes like number of streams, right? And so what do we get these days? We get these like really short songs that sometimes have like one catchy chorus moment or something like that that like can get posted on TikTok and all this stuff, right? And there's like this focus now on individual tracks, on singles, on viral moments within these songs that people can clip and use, and that's how like it gets promoted, right? So I feel like in our modern day and age of streaming, we have kind of lost the art of creating a cohesive album that has meant to be listened to from start to beginning, or from start to end, as its own experience, as its own journey. And OK Computer, I think, is so brilliant in the journey that it takes you on from beginning to end. And the themes and motifs that are explored throughout the album are so consistent and so relational that like you listen to the entire album and no track feels out of place. Like everything feels cohesive, everything flows really nicely together, and it all relates to each other within the context of these themes. And so what kind of themes are explored in this album? And also something to keep in mind too is that this album came out in 1997, and so like I think it's easy to look at some of these themes in 2025 when a lot of these concepts have been kind of pushed into mainstream discourse, right? Like critiques of capitalism and consumerism are so much more common now than they were back in the 90s. So it can be very easy to like look at these themes and be like, oh wow, like this is so deep. Oh my gosh, capitalism bad, technology is bad. But like in 97, no one was talking about these things. And the fact that so much of this has aged so, you know, for better or for worse, it has aged really well. And a lot of these themes and a lot of these explorations are still very much relevant. So one of the main themes, of course, of this album, with the title OK Computer, right? Ambivalence towards technology, how it serves and severs humanity. The title OK Computer is so interesting to me, right? Like back in the 90s, OK Computer was kind of like the Hey Siri of the day, right? Like that's how people, like the thought of like voice commands to a computer was like so sci-fi and futuristic, right? And so they would say like, okay, computer, please pull up my emails for the day or something, right? Like that it would be a verbal command to say, okay, computer. So there was this exploration of technology, but also there's like the word okay, right? Like the word okay is not good, it's not bad. It's somewhere in the middle, it's somewhere ambivalent between the two. And I think like this album has such a nuanced view on technology, and it's not an album that just outright says like, oh man, technology is so bad and the development of technology is, you know, severing our connections as humans and is the death of all humanity or whatever, right? Like it's not so straightforward. It's like there are good parts of technology, there are bad parts of technology, there are ways that it helps us, there's ways that we have now become dependent on it, and there's ways in which it is destroying us. And what I love so much about Radiohead and what I love so much about this album is that it explores these nuances both lyrically and musically, and is able to acknowledge kind of both of these truths at the same time to create this ambivalence, this kind of like back and forth between these feelings of technology. And I think like it's such an interesting and relevant exploration. Let me read the chat here. I need to find another way to see the chat, because I'm like not able to read your entire messages. Tom says, I think it's less that no one was talking about capitalism, more that Radiohead was bidding to respond to the convergence of capitalism and the digital age that was brewing on the horizon. I think that's where the album finds its themes, and it's also bizarre, unique sounds. Yeah, totally. That's a great way to put it. It took place right at the cusp of Y2K, and the album encapsulates that marriage of traditional and digital forms of music. Absolutely. That's a really good way of putting it. 100%. Yeah. I think like the fact that it did come out in 97, I think I read somewhere that this was kind of like a end of the millennium blues kind of send off in a way, right? And so like it is very interesting to think about like the way that technology was being developed and talked about at the turn of the millennium, and how the thought of like Y2K and the turn of the century has like affected the way that people view technology. I think that's really part of the themes that they were exploring in this album as well too. Isolation, alienation, paranoia, frustration with those in power. That is a really big theme of this album. The idea that, you know, technology is separating us from each other, that capitalism is separating us from each other, the ways in which that by acknowledging these sort of like things that often are left unacknowledged can leave you feeling this sense of like isolation and this like loneliness, right? Like when you like, I'm kind of also thinking about like the song Fake Plastic Trees from the Bends, where the theme of that song was, you know, everyone is kind of like putting on a facade, and it's exhausting to move in this world where everyone is just sort of like faking it, right? And those themes are continuing to be carried over into this album as well too. And the idea that, and this kind of goes into my next point here with identity, ego death, and loss of authenticity through conformity, right? So like when we submit ourselves to the capitalist machine, and when we conform ourselves and suppress our own individuality and our own identity for the sake of conformity, for the sake of survival, it can be akin to death in a certain way. And that death, that feeling like you are not allowed to express your true self, can lead to these feelings of isolation and alienation, right? So these themes are really like tied together. And of course, like societal and individual effects of consumerism and capitalism. Politics is also a little bit in there as well too. And some of the motifs that I've noticed come up a lot in this album that sort of are used as vehicles, for lack of a better term, to explore some of these themes. Transportation is a really big like motif in this album. You'll notice that the album cover itself is kind of this like intersection highway roadway kind of thing. This is actually a real location. I think it's somewhere in like Ireland or something like that. But the motif of transportation and wandering and being kind of in this like limbo state in between points A and point B can lead to that feeling, right, of hopelessness, wandering, isolation, and that's something that is illustrated a lot in this album. Yes, Tune. Painfully relevant, unfortunately. Absolutely. In your research for this stream, did you come across any literary influences? I've always wondered if it was inspired at all by likes of Isaac Asimov. Yes, absolutely. So I didn't include that information in this stream, unfortunately, but I did come across that a little bit in my research, Tom. So yes, Isaac Asimov, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right, is a really big influence on especially songs like Paranoid Android. I think there's some direct references to Paranoid Android, or sorry, Hitchhiker's Guide in Paranoid Android. I know that there's references to this in Kid A, and because of that, I think that there are some tangential references to it in this album. But Animal Farm, I think, is pretty explicitly referenced in Kid A. And, you know, I mentioned this on the slide here, right? There's this motif as well of comparing animals, humans to animals, comparing humans to livestock, especially. And I feel like that motif comes from like Animal Farm and whatnot, right? And obviously, like, you know, with this sort of dystopian exploration, this idea of like surveillance, right, technology being used to surveil us as well. Like I think there's also a little bit of like, you know, 1984 and all those kind of stuff in there too, but definitely, yeah, Hitchhiker's Guide was a big one as well, for sure. Another motif that comes up in this album a lot is this feeling of anger towards society, right? Like feeling angry towards those who are in power, and how that anger can get twisted and turned in on oneself, right? Like a frustration with the world turns into a frustration with oneself, and that conflict, that struggle is something that comes up a lot in this album as well too. And then there's also this like this motif that comes up a lot of resignation, acceptance, and surrender. And I've used all three of these words here. And what's interesting is that like they kind of have different connotations, right? Like resignation kind of has a negative connotation. Acceptance kind of has a positive connotation. Surrender can be kind of like positive or negative depending on what you're surrendering to. And I think like that ambivalence, right? Like that ambiguity is something that this album explores and kind of leaves up to interpretation, right? Like when you surrender yourself to these systems, does that mean you're dying to a certain extent? Like, are you kind of killing your identity, your own sense of self, in order to resign yourself to these systems? Or is there like some form of peace that comes from accepting that we can't change the world in some ways, right? So I think like there are some of the songs in this album that can kind of be interpreted in either way. And I think that's where like the beauty of this ambivalence and this ambiguity really comes in, because it's like, again, it's not saying, right, like technology bad, humans bad, you know, capitalism bad. It's very much exploring these ideas and questioning them, meditating on them. Like, what is technology doing to us, right? What are the ways it's like harming us and helping us, right? It's like kind of more asking these questions, meditating on these concepts rather than giving us a definitive answer. And I find that nuance and that ambiguity to be one of the most interesting parts of this album, because I find that most modern music and most popular music these days tends to be very emotionally flat and pretty one note. And what I appreciate about Radiohead and about this album is that it's not one note. It's not just, you know, Radiohead often gets cited as like, oh, they're just sad music. It's like depressing music. It's like incel sad boy music, right? Which to some extent I will acknowledge is kind of true. There are merits to that stereotype. But I think like what people who don't really know a lot of Radiohead's like later discography, maybe these people really only know like Creep and some of their earlier works. But what I think that they kind of fail to acknowledge about a lot of their later works is that there is a lot of hope. There is a lot of triumph. There is a lot of acceptance. There is a lot of peace. There is a lot of beauty in a lot of their music as well too. So it's not just like sad, depressing, angry, whatever. There's a lot of beauty. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of emotion that is part of their music as well too. And I feel like that is just closer to reality, right? Like it's closer to, I think, like the truth about technology, right? Like I think it's only just honest and fair to say that there are good things and bad things about technology. And I appreciate that honesty in this album and that kind of exploration. So yes, that is what I have to say about the themes and motifs of this album. Part of why I think it resonates so deeply for me. Oh, and one more thing I'll mention too. I also really connected with this album and really resonated with a lot of the themes as a trans person, as a queer person, right? Because, you know, to get to the third point on the left, right? Like this idea of conformity and ego death, right? Like you're conforming to society and you're losing of your individuality, of your authenticity in order to fit yourself into the mold of societal expectations. That is akin to death. That is something that this album makes pretty explicitly clear. And that really resonates with me as a trans person who has had the experience, right, of having to suppress my identity and having to hide my authentic self in order to conform and fit into what societal expectations of me were going to be. And I find that really powerful. And one of the ways that I think can have people empathize with this idea, right, of like when you are suppressing yourself, you are not alive to a certain extent. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in there too, that like a lot of trans people, a lot of queer people, I think, do also resonate with this, and it's not just coming from a place of like individuality, authenticity, right? There can be these like additional layers to it. Again, my pictures aren't loading. I don't know why my pictures are not loading properly, but as always, I wanted to give my little YouTuber shout out as well too. The biggest YouTube channel that I want to give a shout out to is Ixie Music over here. I'm really sad that like the images are not showing up. Let me see if I can fix that really quick. Come on. Nope, doesn't want to work. Okay, well, whatever. You can see her icon there, hopefully. But yeah, Ixie Music, she has a series going on right now. She is like a musician. She is a mostly a keyboard player, I want to say. And she has her own original music too. But she has been doing this series on YouTube where she has been analyzing every song from OK Computer, and she actually hasn't finished yet. I think she's up to like track 10 or 11 or something like that. So she's not quite done with the entire album yet, but she, in my opinion, is the definitive analyzer of Radiohead and OK Computer on YouTube. The reason why I appreciate her videos so much is that she not only is really acknowledgeable and really well versed in music theory and able to kind of articulate these concepts, but she explains it in a way where it's very accessible and understandable to people who might not even understand music theory, right? So like what I appreciate about her and talking about music theory is that she kind of goes beyond music theory and extrapolates an emotion and a meaning from it. So she doesn't just say stuff like, oh, this chord progression is in this key. She'll say something like, this chord progression is in this key and uses these minor and major chords, and therefore it creates this tension, or it creates this conflict, and it creates this feeling of longing, or this creates this feeling of sadness, or creates this feeling of triumph or something, right? Like she'll tie the theory back to an emotion that explains the meaning and the conveyance of the songs that she's analyzing. And I really appreciate that, because in listening to her videos and in watching her analysis, it has helped me also learn and teach myself how to analyze music and how to almost like read music in a literary way, right? Like try to understand these music theory concepts, not just for the sake of like knowing what the chords are, but what does that functionally do to the story that is being conveyed through the music. So if you want a really in-depth, like, what do these chords mean in this Radiohead song? What is the message that is being conveyed? Highly, highly, highly recommend Ixie Music. She's awesome and super talented and just really good at explaining these concepts. David Bennett, he's great at explaining Radiohead as well too, and analyzing Radiohead. I think he only has 1 or 2 videos on OK Computer. He has a lot more videos on some of their other tracks from other albums, but just wanted to give him a shout out as well too, because he does great work. Marin Music Center. So these two at the bottom are actually less analysis YouTubers, and they're more like teachers. They're guitar teachers. So Marin Music Center, I have learned some Radiohead tutorials from him, and he's just a great YouTuber. He's super fun. Definitely his teaching style really resonates with me, and so I wanted to give him a shout out. And then Warren Music has been on YouTube since like 2007, doing Radiohead tutorials and acoustic covers of Radiohead songs, so highly recommend him as well too. He's just one of the all-time like old school greats when it comes to Radiohead videos on YouTube. So just wanted to give my little YouTuber shout out as usual. A lot of awesome creators out there talking about and analyzing Radiohead. Obviously, Radiohead has been around for 30 some odd years, and lots of people talk about them. So definitely wanted to give a shout out to the people who can articulate some of these concepts a lot better than I can, at least when it comes to like the music side of things. Ugh. My face is getting the mucus. Ooh. All right. Let's move on. Okay, so now I want to start delving into the actual tracks themselves. I am going to try to potentially play some clips here and there. I am going to be using a software that has split up the audio tracks. It's not like perfect, so like, you know, it's split like the vocals and the guitar and the drums and whatnot stuff. So I'm going to try to point out certain aspects and certain clips of the songs, excuse me. But mostly I think like for this stream, I'm mostly going to be talking about like the lyrics and the meanings of the songs. I feel like most of the videos that I've seen online tend to focus a little bit more on like the musical analysis and not as much on like the lyrical analysis. And that is also personally like what I feel more confident in analyzing as well too. Like I have, you know, a writing background and I've taken poetry classes. And so like I feel more confident in analyzing lyrics and poetry than I do analyzing music, but I do want to acknowledge certain aspects of the music and the arrangements and extrapolating how we can get more understanding from the music and how the music lends itself to contribute to the meaning and the story that the songs are trying to convey, right? So the way that I tend to listen to music, and I acknowledge that all three of these metrics are incredibly subjective, but for me, like when I am listening to a song that resonates with me, the things that I'm looking for are, is this an emotionally compelling song? Is this something that I emotionally resonate with and connect to? Is this an interesting song? Is this something that is doing something like unusual or unique or cool in a way that is a little bit outside the norm? And I feel like Radiohead really encapsulates that like interesting aspect of music to me, you know, more so than anyone else. And then also like how memorable is it? Like I think this is something that's really subjective for me, but I really love songs that get stuck in my head. I love songs that when I'm just like walking around and like not even doing anything, it just like will randomly pop up in my head and almost like come from inside me in a certain way. So I love songs that like make their way into me and show themselves when I least expect them, just like pop up in my head and just like I just remember them. And definitely with Radiohead, I've had a lot of that. So, and of course, as we go through the tracks, we are, I'm going to be going through the lyrics and whatnot as well, too. Just want to remind everyone again to donate to the fundraiser. Thank you to everyone who's donated so far. I'm going to try refreshing to see if we've gotten any more donations in this time. Not quite. We're still at 11%, but that's okay. Thank you again to everyone who's donated. I am very grateful and very happy to see the support. So thank you again. And I'll be reminding folks every so often as we continue to discuss the tracks as well too. Reminder that the fundraiser is pinned in the chat currently on YouTube, and the link is down there at the bottom in the description. And you can see the link on screen as well to healpalestine.apps.neoncrm.com/okcomputermotm. Thank you to everyone who's donated so far. Really appreciate it. Thank you for helping support Palestinian lives and children. It really means a lot to me. All right, so let's go ahead and start talking about the tracks. Okay, so the first song in the album is Airbag. And honestly, this is one of my favorite Radiohead songs, I think, like, ever. Full disclosure, I have not listened to all of Radiohead's music. I've only listened to 6 out of 9 of their albums. There's like a few that I haven't gotten to yet, and I haven't really listened to much of their like B-sides and like bonus tracks and all that stuff yet, so I still have like a lot of their discography to get through. But Airbag is like one of my favorite songs. It is, I think, an amazing opening track for this album, and honestly might be my second favorite opener. Kid A, full disclosure, is my favorite Radiohead album, which is their 4th album that comes out after this one. So I really love Kid A. I think that's like my actual all-time favorite album. Like that album is a 10 out of 10 for me, and OK Computer is like a 9.9 out of 10 for me. But Airbag might be my second favorite like opening track because I think it sets the stage for the album like so awesomely, so perfectly. And you know, if we listen to I'm basic bish and OK Computer is my favorite. Yeah, totally. I think that's pretty common. I think that's pretty common, Tom, that OK Computer tends to be people's favorite. Um so I want to just like play the beginning of the intro of the guitar part. Hopefully this plays properly. So like right away, right, we're getting these like very weird chords. Like you can kind of, I don't know how much you can see at the top, right, at on the top of this analyzer here, but there's like A minor, E major, F major, and so we're getting this like weird dissonant harmonies. Yeah, exactly, Tom. Exactly what you said. These weird harmonies, these weird chords that are coming from major and minor, and already we're kind of just like getting this sense of like, where are we, right? Like, are we kind of like floating in the air somewhere? And I think like, you know, thematically that works really well with this song, which is Airbag. So what this song is about, right? It's actually probably one of the most autobiographical songs on the album because it is based off of a real life experience that Tom York had where he got into a car crash and survived, right? So it's about this car crash that he got into and survived. And so right away we're getting these like major and minor chords where we're already feeling this ambivalence, right? And I think like it's so interesting, this song, right, talking about technology, right? Like looking at the lyrics here, in the next world war, jackknife juggernaut, right, it's kind of like talking about this car crash. Juggernaut being described as a unstoppable force, right? I am born again. There's like this theme also of reincarnation, right? This empowerment that comes from technology. And I think also this idea of being born again, reincarnation, right, I think fits really nicely with like starting the album, right? Like this album really marked a shift in Radiohead's sound and in their discography. So in a weird way, with this album, the band is kind of being born again. And Tom, or the narrator of the song, feeling this empowerment, feeling this adrenaline, right, of like surviving this near-death experience that was both caused and solved by technology, right? Like we get this line here: in a fast German car, I'm amazed that I survived. An airbag saved my life. And the fast German car is just as much technology as the airbag that saved his life, right? And that's where the ambivalence comes in. That's where this this nuanced take on technology comes in, because there is like an appreciation for the airbag, but also like you wouldn't even be in the situation if you weren't in that fast German car to begin with. And you know, going back to what I said earlier about the motif of transportation, right? I feel like transportation and cars and trains and everything is often used in this album as like a metaphor for life in a weird way, like moving through life. So there's like a speed, there's a urgency, right, that comes through this movement, and I find that to be very fascinating. And this song is just really awesome in general. I feel like I have more to say, but yeah, the guitar part, the way that it like goes in between these like major and minor chords and creates this sense of like floating through the air in a weird way. And another part of the song that I absolutely really love is the bass line. No worries, Tune. Thanks so much for hanging out and being here for as long as you can. Definitely give the album a listen if you get a chance. I really, really love the bass line in this song. I feel like it's so underrated. So like if I play the bass line here, it's so subtle. It's so sparsely used. And there's like these large gaps in between. And it's just like these little licks that like pop in along with the guitar part. And I really, first of all, it's just kind of so catchy and so like ba-da-da-da-bump. Like I just love those little riffs. Like I think they're so catchy, but also like the fact that it's used so sparingly. Again, it kind of just like gives this feeling of like, oh, we're floating through the air. We don't really know where the floor is, right? Like maybe we've gotten into this car crash and we're like flipping around in the car, right? Don't really know which way is up. So like I feel like this bass line really contributes to that feeling as well too. And I love the way that when we get to like I think it's when we get to the solo. Let me see if I can find it. Or maybe it's back here. So first of all, it's kind of hard to hear because the software isn't the best, but I really, really love the guitar solo that we get in there. It might honestly be one of my favorite guitar solos, if not on the album, like maybe even of all time. I just really love this guitar solo. The da na 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 da na 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 da na 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 da na 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 na. Like it's again kind of mixing those major and minor sounds and kind of flipping in between them, and it's just creating this like beautiful melody that is just like so mysterious, so otherworldly, so like out of reality. And then during that like incredible solo, we just get like this bass line that's just like going absolutely like ham. Okay, maybe not this part. I think it's actually the part where like the song like really breaks down and like the drums come in, but like we get this like awesome like bass that really like amplifies itself. It's just really fun, and it's such a fun intricate arrangement where the drums and the bass and the guitar are all like kind of having these conversations with each other, and it's just so cool. It's so well done. And yeah, I don't want to get too much into like the music theory side of it because I feel like other people can kind of articulate that side of it better. But there's so much that we get in this song that we continue to explore in the rest of the album, right? Like technology, this feeling of being both dependent on technology and also the fact that the technology is the reason that we're in this mess to begin with. This feeling of return and empowerment and triumphant against the systems that were trying to harm us, right? Like that is something that we'll see again in the album as well too. And yeah, I think just like melodically this song is so satisfying and so beautiful. Like I just really love how the chorus, like, you know, Ixie kind of talks about this in her video, but you know, it feels so complete because we return back to our tonal center, like in interstellar burst, I'm back to save the universe. Like it's almost like a classical song in a way where we're like going in a circle and ending back at home. And yeah, it's just so satisfying and so beautiful, and I absolutely am obsessed with the song. Just love this song so much. Also, like this is so random, but the song, like when it breaks down, when the song breaks down, to stand fast.
to say the end.
Like, okay, first of all, those little like electronic beeps that like it just, again, it's so fresh, it's so new. Like, it's not something that we ever heard in rock music before this album. And again, just sort of reminding us, right, like the role of technology also within the song, right? So we hear those little blip 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 blips, and then the song breaks down, right? Like the guitar sort of like falls apart in a weird way, and you know, we get that bass line that like is kind of in tandem with the drums, and it sort of like almost gives this feeling, right, of like technology coming and taking over the human parts of the music in a weird way. And again, like that is part of the exploration of this album of like technology, like humanity's relationship with technology, right? And the ways in which that we can coexist and live simultaneously, and then the ways in which it can sometimes overtake us, right, and overpower us. So yeah, this song I think like both lyrically explores that and like musically explores that, and I think that that's really cool. Yes, really nice consonant resolution at the end of that phrase. Absolutely, Tom, really well put. Yeah, so that's Airbag. I think it's just such an awesome, beautiful start to the album. It really just like hits you right in the face with those beginning like distorted chords and harmonies, and it really immediately puts you in this realm of like you're in a different reality, you're in a different mode of existence right now, because like we are going to transport you to a place that's new and essentially put you up in a suspended state in the air as you like listen to this music. So that's at least how I see it and how I interpret it, and it's the best opening track for this album in that I can imagine. It's so good. Yeah, definitely one of my favorite songs. Airbag, awesome. All right, moving on to track number 2, and again, want to remind everyone that this is a fundraiser stream, and if you have any few bucks to spare, to please donate during our fundraiser that we got going on here. I'll go ahead and do a quick refresh to see if we've gotten any more donations in the meantime. No, not yet. No worries. All right. Moving on to track number 2, Paranoid Android. So this song, this is how you know I'm a millennial, but this song is one of the most epic songs I think I've ever heard. It is so cool. Obviously very much inspired by like Bohemian Rhapsody and kind of like those older rock songs that has like these different sections, more or less, right? Like there's kind of 3 distinct sections that we have in this song, and they all are supposed to kind of represent these different states of mind. But in general, what this song is exploring, right, is frustration with the powers that be in a weird way. So this song was actually inspired by like when Tom York had like a night out at the bar or the club or something, and there was like this lady who yelled at him after spilling her drink on him or something like that, and she was like high on cocaine or something like that. But you know, this album explores a lot of like anger against the rich, anger against the elite. Tom is saying here, I think it really owes a lot to the Beatles, Abbey Road medley, which was really the first of its kind to do that whole thing in rock music. Yeah, absolutely. Like definitely some big inspirations for this song in order to accomplish that sort of like 3-part, you know, all tying together these 3 parts into one cohesive song, right? So this song, first of all, is so interesting and so unique instrumentally. Like if we go and listen to, like, my favorite part about this song is probably like the drums, because if we like just listen to the drums here, like it's so funky and so fun. Like this song is honestly so fun. Like it's such a funny song to me. And you know, the use of these like Latin drum instruments, right, that are being incorporated in, it kind of gives it this like, again, this foreign feel, right, this kind of otherworldly feel to it. And the song is so playful. Like, you know, I talked about how it's like a very angry song, like it's very like directed towards this frustration towards these people that like we don't care for. But it's also like very playful in the way that it's expressing the anger, right? I find this opening line really interesting, right? Like, please could you stop the noise? I'm trying to get some rest from all the unborn chicken voices inside my head, right? Like, the unborn chicken voices too, I think is kind of an interesting line to me because, you know, I mentioned earlier that we often get these comparisons to livestock, to animals, and you know, in the Genius lyrics analysis here, it says the unborn chicken is another way for coward, all this stuff, right? But the way that I also interpret it too, right? Like the fact that he's kind of comparing voices, right? These voices from people to unborn chickens, right? Like the voices that are in his head that he's tired of hearing, that he like wants to get some rest from, are the voices of society, right? Like telling him what to do, how to act. And he's tired of all these like voices in his head that are telling him how to be. And like what's so interesting to me about like chickens, right? This idea of livestock. People often get compared to livestock in this album. And there's this idea, right, of like livestock is only useful to provide sustenance to humans, and the fact that livestock is often reduced down to their meat and their products, right? I think there's a comparison happening there where humanity is being reduced to what they can produce, and I feel like that comes up time and time again in this album. And then we get this really fun vocal line, the "I may be paranoid, I'm not an android," and I just want to play that really quick, if I can find it here. Please could you stop the noise from all the unborn chicken voices in my head? What's there? So we get this vocal line, you know, what's there? I may be paranoid, but I'm not an android. And this robot voice is used a couple times in the album. And yeah, here we go. Here we get this reference to Hitchhiker's Guide, right? Tom is saying here, don't know if it's coincidental or not, but the main melody and the opening lines of the song sound like they're borrowed from the chorus of Stevie Wonder's As, which is a similarly epic and lengthy song. Huh, that is interesting. I don't know if there is a connection there, but that very well could be. So this robot voice is so interesting to me, right? Because like the use of the robot voice in contrast to Tom's human voice, right? It's like giving this idea again of like loss of identity, of conformity, of falling in line to your programming, right? And this line saying, "But I'm not an android," like coming in this robotic voice, right? Like it's almost ironic, right? It's almost like, you know, this lyric analysis here is saying like it's kind of a joke in a way. But I would say it's kind of more of like an ironic use, right? Like you're saying I'm not an android in this like monotone robot voice. And so what does that mean for your humanity within all of that, right? Like being suppressed in a way. And then the second verse, right, we get this line, when I'm king, you'll be first against the wall with your opinion, which is no consequence at all, right? So there's this anger, there's this frustration towards like those in power, and there's this like desire for like revenge in a weird way, right? Like when I'm in power, when I'm in king, I'm going to say fuck you and throw you up against the wall and disregard all of your opinions, which is of no consequence to me, right? Like I don't give a fuck about your opinions. So there's this like frustration, right? This like desire for revenge that I think is very like relatable, right? You know, later on in the song, we get this line here, ambition makes you look pretty ugly, kicking, squealing, Gucci little piggy. And, you know, ambition makes you look pretty ugly, right? Like, I think that is very plainly saying that, like, these people who value ambition, status, money, power, that is, like, ugly, right? Like, that is something that is a kind of corrupted part of humanity, right? Like the drive for ambition can lead you to being corrupted. That's how I interpret that line. And then kicking, squealing, Gucci little piggy, right? Like I think this is the line that was inspired by Tom York's Night at the Bar, right? With that lady like dumping her drink on him and whatever. But again, right, we get this comparison to livestock, this little piggy, right? And the fact that like Gucci is in there too, right? Like this designer brand name, it harkens back, right, to that idea of like elitism, of kind of phoniness, right? Like thinking back again to like fake plastic trees, right? Like, oh, you want to show off your status by having these like designer brand names, but like what does that mean, right? Like it's all just very fake, it's all just very surface level, it's all just very performative in a way, right? And so I really like the addition of just like that little subtle like Gucci little piggy, because yeah, it is kind of like carrying a lot of weight to tie in these like elite luxury brands, right? And this again, like the consumerism aspect of it is kind of alluded to here as well too. And what I also really love about this part musically, like when we listen to this part of the song, let me see if I can find it here. Oh, here we go. Maybe here. Nope. Oh wait, no, it's probably like here, right? Nope. Why am I not able to find it? There we go. So hold on. I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play the guitar and the vocals together. I'm gonna try to do that. Ambition makes you look pretty ugly. Kicking, screaming, goose, you little piggy. Okay, so what I really love about that part of the song, right, is like we get this little like call and response from the vocals and the guitars. And I don't know about you all, but when I hear that guitar part that like responds back to Tom in that way, the da na 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 na, it reminds me of someone going na 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 na, and that's where I feel like I get this kind of like playful tone from this song, because it's like it's kind of mocking you in a way, right? Like, oh yeah, ambition makes you look pretty ugly, na 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 na. Like that's like the feeling I get from the call and response here, with the guitar, and that's also why I feel like the song is like really fun and really playful, because it is kind of like childish in a weird way, like in the way that it's kind of like mocking these people, right? And like again, we later get this line later in the chorus in this bridge, right? Like, you don't remember my name, off with his head, man, off with his head, right? Like this allusion to like the Queen of Hearts and Alice in Wonderland, right? Like oh, these people like don't even remember my name, like fuck them, like death to them, right? Execute them straight to jail. There's this kind of like playful anger, right, that they're trying to condemn these people, right? These people who are ambitious, who prioritize brand names and status and money and whatnot, right? So all of that is kind of tied up in this mocking nature of this second part of this song here. So I really love that. And then of course, like too, with like the vocals, right, we get this like la 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 la. So I find that to be very funny and a very like fun part of this song, right? Yeah, there's the Alice in Wonderland off with her heads kind of stuff, right? And then the song then makes a pretty dramatic shift. If we go ahead and just like play the song. Well, first we get this like awesome guitar solo, right? Like, let me just play this guitar solo for a bit. And one thing I really love about this guitar solo too is like, again, Radiohead, right? They have been incorporating these like experimental songwriting stuff and these kind of like unusual techniques, right? And so like this song for the most part is like an 8 count. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But then for some reason during this guitar solo, they just like drop the 8th note and like they just do it in 7. So it goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? It's just fun. It's just like it gives this feeling of like go, go, go. We're going to the next lick, right? And like this guitar solo too. It's like so like all over the place. It's so melodic and it's just like such a cool just moment in the album. Like I don't really know like what else to say about it other than like it's just so cool and so fun. And the way that it then like transitions from that into the sad part of the song, right? It's just like and the way that the drums kind of like add to that transition, right? So like this is during the guitar solo, right? And then like as it breaks down, and then of course we get the harmonies, right? I don't know about you all, but whenever I hear those vocals, like those like orchestral vocals, like those harmonies, oh my god, it just like goes straight into my heart. It's like it's so beautiful and so like tragic, you know, like especially like Tom's voice here, right? Like I feel like his performance in this song, that emotion is so palpable. It's so like wet in a weird way and it's so obvious. And like I don't know, like whenever I listen to these harmonies, especially with like the descending guitar line that we get here too, like we get this like the descending guitar along with those vocal harmonies and the way those like pair together, it just like creates this like beautiful like rising tragic feeling within you. And then of course, right, we get these lines from Tom singing rain down, come on, rain down on me from a great height, rain down on me, right? And it's so tragic sounding and so like defeatist, right? There again, like that motif of like acceptance and surrender, I think comes up in the third part of the song, right? Because like the first 2 parts of the song are just like, you know, fuck the world, fuck that, you know, when I'm king, I'm gonna fuck you up, you know, like all this kind of like angry, you know, fuck the elite, fuck the rich, and then like I'm gonna, you know, whatever. And then as we transition into this like tragic part of the song, there's like a surrender, there's like a acceptance of the fact that, you know, they're not going to remember my name. I guess I guess there's no point in trying to fight with them to get to remember my name. And so there's like this resignation and this acceptance and this pleading, right? This like pleading that in accepting this position that he has, maybe some form of salvation can come from that, right? And I love this bridge, this last bridge here, like with the harmonies with rain down and like layered on top of this harmony of that's it, sir, you're leaving, the crackle of pigskin, the dust and the screamings, the yuppies networking, man, the fucking yuppies, man. You know, like these people, these like ambitious elites that are in power and forcing their will upon all of us, right? Like it's such an impossible thing to fight against, and so all we can do is just beg for that salvation, for the rain to come down and to cleanse us in a way, right? Yeah, and I can't get over the vocals in this last part. Those harmonies are just like so tragically beautiful. Rain down on me. Oh, so good, so powerful, so beautiful. It's just so incredible. I seriously, like, I get emotional every time I listen to that part of the song, because like that power in those vocals and those harmonies is just so like, it cuts straight through you. At least it does for me. And this song is just so epic and so emotionally charged. And I think it so rightfully deserves its place as considered one of the greatest rock songs of all time. Like it's, you know, the 7-minute epic ballad and it's so creative in the chord progressions, in the arrangements, in the drums, in that bass line, the harmonies. I seriously love this song. I feel like I can't really say anything else new other than it's such an amazing song and I love it so much. Yeah, shout out to Paranoid Android, one of the all-time greats. All right. Gonna take a quick look here at our fundraiser. Looks like we're still in the same place, but want to remind everyone again that we still have our fundraiser going on. Definitely check it out. In the description, link on screen. Please donate. Help Palestinian children who are desperately trying to come to the United States and other countries to seek the life-saving medical care that they so desperately need. So check out the link in the description and please donate if you can. I might honestly just wear the silly hat anyway, since we did make it to over 10%, and I feel like that's a pretty worthwhile goal. So maybe if I get to the halfway point of the tracks and we haven't reached the first goal yet, I might just wear the silly hat anyway, just because it's fun and I actually put effort into making it, so I want to show it off too. All right, moving right along. So, Subterranean Homesick Alien, it's a beautiful song. The first time I heard the song, I thought it was just so cool. The way that they use these electronic little licks, like I'm gonna pull it up here. Let's see, Subterranean. So if we listen to the guitar part or the instrumental part, first of all, these chords are so cool. So right away from that intro, like it gives this very like folksy kind of like ballady kind of sound. And, you know, even in the vocals as we get into it, like it's kind of told like almost as like a folk tale. But I wanna acknowledge these little electronic bits. it's like it sounds like sci-fi. It sounds like alien technology. Like, I don't know how they have managed to convey that so accurately, so perfectly. Like, I don't know what the name of the instrument is called. It's some sort of synthesizer, some sort of electronic synthesizer, but like, again, just like that combination, right, of like the guitar and and then right, like the electronic, like high pitched sounds, like this otherworldly feel, right? And then of course once we get to the vocals, right, we get this kind of like folksy, like the breath of the morning, I keep forgetting the smell of the warm summer. You know, it's very kind of like, I live in a town where you can't smell a thing. You watch your feet for cracks in the pavement. You know, it's like very not monotone, but like the melody doesn't like go all over the place, right? It's a very steady melody, and it kind of like gives that old like folk song tale, like I'm telling you a story through song kind of vibe, right? And the story that is being told, the story that is being told in this song, right? It's about this narrator who is living in this world where he doesn't feel like he quite belongs with other people, right? And it kind of goes along with those ideas of alienation, of isolation, of feeling like you can't be your authentic self and express yourself to people because they like won't understand. And you know, this is being conveyed through the story of like, I was abducted by aliens, and these aliens are these types of people, right? Like, they lock up their spirits, they drill holes in themselves and live for their secrets, right? And in the genius analysis here, it says like it's kind of an allusion to the ways that we hurt ourselves, the ways that human beings like talk to each other, and the way that they gossip and stuff like that. I kind of like see this, yeah, I guess like that's a pretty accurate reading or whatever, but yeah, I kind of see it as just like, again, like there's a disconnect, right? There's some sort of disconnect between the narrator of the song and other people. There's some sort of misunderstanding that's going on there. And during the chorus, the narrator is saying these lines, they're all uptight, and kind of condemning, you know, these people that don't understand him, these aliens, these other worldly beings. And it's very interesting to me that this part of the song is very uplifting. Like, it's very like almost triumphant sounding. Like, if I turn on just the vocals and the instrumentals here. Oops, not the drums. Mute the drums. I want to go here. Like, that guitar part, like, despite the rest of the song, which is very like somber, like when it gets into that chorus where it goes uptight, you know, we can see here as well too, we're getting all these like major chords, F major, C major, G major, and it's very like uplifting and very triumphant sounding, which is like kind of in stark contrast to what the lyrics are saying, right? Like, they're all uptight, and yet somehow that's like seen as triumphant. So again, like there's a bit of like a disconnect there. There's like a bit of irony there with acknowledging that these people are uptight, but in that acknowledgement, there is a sort of victory that's there, right? And to me, that kind of adds to that idea of like surrender and acceptance to the world. And, you know, as the song kind of continues, right? Like it kind of talks about how like, oh, I'm going to get abducted by aliens. Show me the world through this like outside perspective, right? The way that like I would like to see it, not as a part of it, but you know, almost like a bird's eye view. And he's like saying like, you know, my friends won't believe me. They'd shut me off and I would show them like these beautiful things, right? But like they wouldn't care about them, right? Like this miraculous thing has happened where like I got abducted by aliens and they showed me the meaning of the world. And when trying to convey that to the other earthlings, there's a disconnect, right? There's a feeling that like they're not ever going to acknowledge my truth, and they would just shut it away and not even like pay attention to the beauty of the world, right? That these aliens have shown the narrator. And you can see here that like the last chorus has shifted now into being I'm just uptight instead of they're all uptight. And that I think is a motif again that we'll see throughout the album, right? This like resignation, this acceptance. And there's this anger, right, towards other people, towards other beings that don't understand us. But at the same time, there's an acknowledgement that we are one and the same as those other people as well, too. There's like a feeling of, I'm condemning these people, but am I really that much different from the people that I'm condemning, right? And again, that's where this irony comes in, this disconnect, right? This feeling of acceptance and resignation is in a way a triumph, a surrender. It's an acceptance, but it's tragic in a certain way too, right? Like the fact that we do have to resign ourselves to this existence where we're not really paying attention to the world as we'd love to see it. And we are locking up our spirits, right? And so in accepting that that is a reality, there's a sadness in that. There's a sense of tragedy in that. And that's where this line of I'm uptight comes from, even though it like has this very triumphant sounding chord progression, which I think is just really, again, where that nuance comes in, right? Like, is it really happy or sad, the fact that we have to resign ourselves to the system and we can't really like do anything or change anything about it? I think it's like a little bit of both, right? And I think that's what Radiohead is kind of saying here too, right? Like we do have to be kind of uptight in a certain way, but in a way, in accepting that, it can be freeing in some ways. So it's a little tricky. It's a little complicated. At least that's my interpretation of it. I'm sure other people have other interpretations. You know, this song is very ambiguous in that way where you can kind of read it in any way that you'd like. And so I think that that's really cool. Excuse me. No worries, Tom. Thanks so much for hanging out and for all of your insight and your donations as well, too. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for being here. Have a good rest of your night. Alrighty. Moving on to the next track. Oop. Let's see here. I also do just want to quickly refresh. All right, no worries. Okay. Exit music for a film. So this song was actually originally made for the 1996 version of the Romeo and Juliet film. So this song actually does cover the story of Romeo and Juliet. But it's kind of interesting. Like when you listen to this song, it's really dark sounding. It's really like depressing. And they use a lot of these like dirty, heavy, bass ridden like guitar tones in this song. Like when we listen to well, I'll get to that when we get to that. But like, it's really heavy, it's really dark. But like, what's interesting to me about the lyrics of this song is like, again, there's that theme of anger towards those who are in power and a kind of desire for like this revenge and this like feeling of karma, right? Of like, oh, you're gonna get what's coming to you, right? Like that's obviously with Karma Police being another song on this album, like that's another big motif that's often in this album, right? So it's like, you know, it's kind of from the perspective of Romeo, right? Like we're gonna escape today to Juliet. Don't lose your nerve. I can't do this alone, right? And then when they say like sing us a song to keep us warm, there's such a chill, right? Like I think like that verse is talking about how there's like the society within Romeo and Juliet, right? That like has all these rules, and yet those rules are so restrictive and oppressive that it has led to the tragic demise of these two teenagers, right? That's where that chill comes in. And you can laugh a spineless laugh, right? Like you can acknowledge that you can try to absolve yourself from the blame of how you upheld the system that contributed to the death, but in doing so it's spineless, right? Like if you're just not taking that accountability. And again, then the narrator says, we hope that your rules and wisdom choke you, right? Again, there's like that anger towards those who are in power, who are establishing the rules and are creating a society and a world that is so restrictive that there's almost a, again, that acceptance, that surrender, right? Like we're now one in everlasting peace. We have died, but in a way it's a victory because we're free from these rules that you have established, and we're free from your oppression. And we hope that that oppression that you have so vehemently enforced ends up coming back to bite you, right? We hope that you choke on your own rules and wisdom. So yeah, this idea of like karma, this idea of like your oppressiveness has killed us, but in a way that has set us free. And isn't that so sad for you that now you're the ones who have to remain alive in the oppressive system that you yourself have built in the world? So it's like such a cool way that this song can like sound so dark and so tragic, and yet when you like read into the lyrics, it's like almost uplifting and it's almost kind of hopeful in a weird way, even though it's about like death and tragedy. So again, just like that nuance and those kind of ambivalent feelings that we get in these songs is something that I just really love about Radiohead. And I just again just want to acknowledge that really dirty, heavy tone that we get in the guitar part like later on. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, it's actually like the bass line, right? It's so heavy, and it's the distortion is just so like gritty and grimy, and it's just like it just like adds this weight to the song that like it feels like it's like carving out into your stomach when you listen to it. At least it does for me, right? So it's just really cool the way that they're able to accomplish that with those electronic tones again. Oop, went too far. Okay. I am actually going to take a quick little break really fast. I just have to use the restroom really quick. So before we get into the next song, I'm going to take a quick pause. Please, in the meantime, donate to the fundraiser that is in the description and on the stream. I will be back in just a moment. I just need to use the restroom really quick and take a quick break. So be right back. Alrighty, I am back. Thank you everyone for your patience. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the next track here. I love this track. Okay, so Let Down. This it's kind of funny. So this song has randomly been blowing up on TikTok, I guess. I'm not on TikTok myself, but from, you know, the little bits of the Radiohead fandom that I follow, and from kind of seeing people talk about it online, I have kind of discovered that apparently the Gen Zs and the younger generation have discovered Radiohead, and apparently this song in particular has been blowing up on TikTok. And I find this really funny because when I, you know, admittedly, I was also very much late to Radiohead, right? Like this album came out in 97 and I only listened to it like 2 years ago, right? So I'm not one to kind of claim, you know, I'm ahead of the curve or, you know, whatever, right? Obviously, I'm not trying to say that here. But when I first listened to this album a couple years ago, this was my favorite song, I think, like right off the bat. Like, I think that this was probably this one and Airbag, right? Were like my two favorites off of the album. And this one also, I think, is the one that like really resonated with me and spoke to me like on an emotional level the most out of all of these songs. So I found it very funny and interesting that despite when this album, you know, first came out, you know, Let Down obviously wasn't one of the singles. It wasn't one of the most like popular tracks. There was kind of a meme in the Reddits and like other places that this song was kind of an underrated gem of Radiohead's, even though like now it is one of their more popular tracks. So that's why it became kind of a meme and kind of a joke to say that this song was underrated. But I still genuinely love this song. I still genuinely think it's one of my favorite Radiohead songs of all time. I think it's the one that I connect with the most and resonate with the most. And I also think that this song tends to get very easily misinterpreted a lot by most people. I think that this is one of those songs that is incredibly nuanced and does kind of like acknowledge different emotional realities that can all be true. And I've noticed this tendency for most people to focus more on one aspect of it more so than the other aspect of it, right? So this song I'm probably going to spend the most time on here in the stream, and then I'm going to try to like go through the other songs a little bit more quickly. But this is a song that I think that I have the most thoughts on and the most feelings on, and kind of have the most to say about it. So I'll just get right into it here. So we start off by talking about like transportation, transport, motorways and tram lines, starting then stopping, taking off and landing, the emptiest of feelings, right? So there's that motif again, right, of traveling, transport, and being kind of in between these two places. And with the addition, right, of this song also illustrating like tram lines and being on public transport in a way that like you're not in control, right? Like you're starting and stopping, taking off and landing. You're kind of at the whims that are behest to the systems again that are around you, right? And when you feel that lack of control and that you're just sort of like moving through life, it does lend to that emptiest of feelings, right? Like feeling that you're not really like making any decisions for yourself. You're just sort of going along with the tram lines, right? Like the path that has been set out in front of you by other people, and all you're doing is thoughtlessly riding along, right? You're not really making any decisions or having any control for yourself, right? And that can lead to these feelings of disappointment, clinging onto bottles again, how we tend to numb ourselves to these feelings. We tend to, reach for things that are coping mechanisms that help us compress some of these feelings and not have to acknowledge them, right? And that's where like that disappointment can come in. And this disappointment, this feeling like you don't have control over your life, this feeling that you're kind of at the whims and behest of the systems and the people around you that have like kind of established these systems already, it can feel very disappointing. It can feel very hopeless. It can feel very um powerless, right? And that's where I think the chorus comes in, right? Let down, crushed like a bug in the ground, let down and hanging around, right? So this song is really about like that feeling of disappointment, feeling like you don't have control over the world, and feeling like no matter what kind of hope that you have for the future, it's like kind of pointless because it's always going to let you down eventually anyway, right? And we get this like really beautiful imagery, right, of this bug on the ground. And again, there's that comparison, right, to animals and to bugs, and um this feeling of helplessness, right? Like shell smashed, juice is flowing, wings twitch. Don't get sentimental because you're just gonna get squished at the end anyway, right? And here's where I think the song gets interesting, because we get this line here: one day I am gonna grow wings, a chemical reaction. And we get this really beautiful harmony, right, on chemical reaction. And I'm actually I'm gonna try to find it here. Try to see if we can get the vocal. Oops. Shell smash, juices flow, wings stretch, like they're good and don't get sentimental. It ends up dread one day. I am gonna grow wings, a chemical reaction. Oh, so good. So we get that little bit of harmony, right? That little extra, those added like upper notes, right? With chemical reaction, hysterical and useless. And these lines, right, are getting these harmonies because they are the emphasis, right? These are the lines that we want to highlight and emphasize the most in this chorus, in this verse. And I feel like this chemical reaction can be interpreted in multiple ways, right? And I think the common interpretation I tend to hear the most is a more hopeful one, right? Like, one day I'm going to grow wings, I'm going to get the strength to fight back or to fly despite these forces that are trying to keep me down, right? And there is like a bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? In there as well too. But it's interesting to me that this is immediately followed up with like hysterical and useless, right? And so I feel like most people will kind of acknowledge this, right? And then later on in the song too, as we get the bridge and as we get the third verse, you know where you are with, floor collapsing, floating, bouncing back. And then again, one day I'm going to grow wings, a chemical reaction. And then we also get this harmony of, you know where you are. And if we play that, we got that harmony. You know where you are. Oh, those harmonies are just so beautiful. And like when I hear those harmonies, right? Like I feel like you get every emotion in those vocals. Like you get that longing and that hope and that desperation for something better, but then you also get that like crushing disappointment and that sadness and that feeling that you're being crazy, that you're being hysterical for feeling this way. And I think that both of those emotions are equally at play here in this chorus. And, you know, I hear some people interpret the song as, oh, this is a sad song. It's about being disappointed. And then I hear other people say, no, this is a hopeful song. It's a happy song. It's about finding your own power despite being disappointed. And I think that both of those things are true. But I also think that there's an element to this that people are forgetting, that people don't really want to acknowledge, which is that the form of hope that is being offered through this song is not a healthy one, and it's not a happy one. It's this idea that one day I'm going to grow wings, a chemical reaction, and I'm not going to need to depend on anyone else. You know, the floor is going to collapse and I'm going to be able to fly off on my own. And so the way that I interpret the song is that it's less about hope and it's more about developing this hyper independence as a coping mechanism to deal with this feeling of disappointment, feeling like you don't have control, feeling like you are going to be constantly let down and disappointed by other people. And again, maybe this is my own projection. Maybe this is my own, like, you know, I'm bringing my own experiences into this song. And this is just the way that I have coped with these feelings of feeling like I don't have control and feeling like I'm constantly let down by other people. I have coped with these feelings by saying, okay, well, I don't need other people. I can just take care of myself. And as long as I can work hard to rely solely on my own, you know, my own abilities, then I don't have to put myself in a vulnerable position in front of people where I can be let down and disappointed, right? And it's taken me many years of therapy and reflection to acknowledge that that is not actually the healthiest way to cope with those emotions, and that you do just sort of have to accept to some extent that you don't have control over everything, but that doesn't mean you don't have control over nothing at all. Like, you still do have control over some things, and there can be times and places where you do need to rely on other people, and sometimes that can lead to disappointment, and sometimes it can lead to surprise, right? Sometimes people can actually surprise you and actually support you. So I think like that is the core emotion, in my opinion, of what this song is trying to convey, is this feeling of coping through hyper independence as a means to combat the feelings of disappointment and hopelessness that society will continue to let you down, right? And I feel like that's an added layer to the song that is just like not really getting acknowledged. And the way that I see it and that I interpret it as a little bit more of a sad song, a little bit more of a tragic song. Like, when you do have to rely solely on yourself, and when you do put all of your eggs essentially into that basket, like, it can lead to some dangerous places at times, right? And I think like this song is just kind of acknowledging all of these truths at the same time, right? Like, that society can be disappointing, and that there are going to be times where like you do have to rely on yourself, where you do have to grow your own wings and fly on your own. But that in and of itself, like that acceptance, right? Again, there's that acceptance, surrender, resignation, right? Like that acceptance of, I am going to grow wings and I'm going to do this on my own. That is a tragedy in some ways. That is like a coping mechanism in some ways. And so I think that there is a little bit of like this ironic tragedy to this song, where it's kind of saying one thing, but it's meaning another thing. And it's conveying that through these mixed emotional messages that the music is conveying too, right? So that is why this is my favorite song on the album. This is why like I've connected to this song the most, because I really relate to that feeling of coping through hyper independence, of feeling like I can only rely on myself when everything else is just such a disappointment. And yeah, I've definitely cried to this song several times, thinking about my own experiences and my own feelings and my own times that I've been disappointed as well too. So it doesn't surprise me that this song has become a TikTok darling, because, you know, when we listen to like that build up and like that ending part of it, where it's just like it all coalesces. You know, this song has such a beautiful asymmetric song structure where it kind of like builds and leads up to this climax that is this like big release of emotion, right? And then it just builds and builds and builds and goes all the way with those harmonies, and everything is at the same time. And you're feeling every emotion, the sad, the happy, the coping, the disappointment, the acceptance, the reliance, the reassurance. It's all there in those harmonies. Oh my God, it gets me so much. I seriously, I love this song so much. And it hits me in such a powerful way that I'm obsessed with. I really love this song. I really love this album. It doesn't surprise me that this has become the TikTok darling, but I just want to put it out there that I got here first and I love this song first. And I also think that everyone else is wrong about it and I'm right. And I will not be taking any questions at this time. Thank you very much. But yeah, that's Let Down, one of my favorite songs, one of the greatest songs on this album, one of my favorite Radiohead songs. Yeah, great, beautiful song. Absolutely obsessed with it and absolutely love it. I think I'm gonna go ahead and try to get through the rest of the album a little bit faster. We're only about at the halfway point and I've been streaming for like 3 hours already. So I'm gonna try to go through a little bit faster here. But you know, Karma Police obviously is one of the most popular songs off the album. It's probably one of Radiohead's most famous songs. This song also too, like in my opinion, is one of their most like influential songs. I feel like I've heard so many modern songs from like the 2010s and till today that sound kind of so much like this song. I used to be like an Arctic Monkeys fan back in the day when I was in college. I went through a bit of an Arctic Monkeys phase. And when I heard this song for the first time, I was like, huh, this kind of reminds me of like Arctic Monkeys in a weird way. And, you know, I had to remind myself, right? Like, oh yeah, Arctic Monkeys were probably heavily inspired by Radiohead and by this song in particular. So it kind of makes sense in that way. And again, this song, I do feel like the song is pretty straightforward. It's again, kind of just going along that theme of being angry, right, against the elite, being angry against the people who have power. I really love these opening lines too. Like, they're just so funny and so like inciting, right? Like, Karma Police arrest this man. He talks in math. He buzzes like a fridge. He's like a detuned radio, right? Like, this guy's boring. He's dull. When I hear like talks in maths too, I feel like I imagine like businessmen and economists and people who think that GDP is the most important and telling measurement of humanity. And maybe this is someone who also like doesn't appreciate the arts, right? Like, they're detuned radio. They don't really like care for music. The things that he talks about, the talking things that he says is just like noise, white noise, right? Just like totally unimportant to pay attention to. And, you know, I feel this way about a lot of people. I feel this way about like hedge fund managers and like stockbrokers and, you know, people who tech bros, right? Like all these people, right? That, seem to value profit and all these sorts of things over humanities. And then of course this iconic line, her Hitler hairdo is making me feel ill. I feel like this line low-key predicted the Karen Bob haircut, which is the kind of modern day Hitler hairdo, which I think is kind of funny. And of course, like, the piano for the song is really what makes it stand out, right? Like, when we listen to, again, like, I think that this song also has kind of a fun little like call and response, kind of similar to the way that Paranoid Android does too. So, right, like if we listen to the vocals along with the instrumentals. This is what you get. Dun, dun 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 dun. This is what you get. Dun 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 dun. This is what you get when you mess with us. Bum 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 bum. Right? There's this like very fun little like call and response that I think is kind of a little similar, right, to the like na 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 kind of like attitude that we're getting in Paranoid Android. And then what we get kind of later in the song, right? Like with the outro, for a minute there, I lost myself, right? Like there's this acknowledgement that like we are not as different to the people that we're trying to condemn, right? Like everyone does bad things. Everyone at some point will get the karma police called on them. Everyone at some point should watch themselves, right? Like you should be very also careful with where and how you're directing your ire, your criticisms, right? Because there's a very good chance that you are being hypocritical because you yourself don't live up to those ideals that you're condemning. So again, there's like that theme. Again, we saw that again with Subterranean Homesick Alien, right? With it turning from they're uptight to I'm uptight, right? There's an acknowledgement that we ourselves are kind of part of the problem. And if we're going to be dishing and dealing, then we need to be willing to take that criticism for ourselves too, right? So like I think that's where this acknowledgement comes in of like, oh yeah, I lost myself in my anger. I need to kind of rein it in and be careful because at any moment this kind of ire can be turned against me as well too, because I am as much part of the problem as these other people, right? And I just, before I move on to the next song, I just want to acknowledge that this line here in verse 3, I don't know what it is about the vocal performance here, but this line just like makes me so emotional. Like it just hits me in such like the specific way. Hold on, I'm gonna try to find it in the vocal track here.
Karma police, I've given all I can, it's not enough. I've given all I can, but we're still on the payroll.
There's just something about that vocal line, that delivery, where he goes, I've given all I can, it's not enough. I've given all I can. Like that, it's not enough, just feels like there's this desperation, there's this sadness, there's this like longing. I don't know, like that feeling really resonates with me. That feeling of like, I'm trying so hard to live up to these ideals, to like be a good person, to try to not be a hypocrite, right, in the way that I'm like calling out people or the way that I want people to be better. But it's never enough, right? Like we're living in this system, we're living in this society where we can try so hard, but there's always going to be someone that is harmed by our actions, and there's always going to be someone who thinks that we can do better. And like that feeling of like that tragedy that comes from that, right? Like that feeling of like I want to do better, I've given all I can, but it's never going to be enough, it's not enough. Like that feeling is something that I really connect with. And so like for some reason, whenever I sing this song, whenever I'm singing along with this song, like that line in particular just like really hits me. And sometimes it makes me cry too, because I'm just like, God, it's not enough, is it? It's really not enough, is it? There's kind of a tragedy there. Yeah, this Genius Lyrics kind of says it well here, right? Like it's a phrase a lot of people can relate to. You can work your ass off for something. However, just because you get something back from it, it's just this desperation, right? This desperation that really comes through with that line. Fitter Happier is probably like more or less like the thesis statement of the album, right? Like we get this, it's, I think like all of the themes and all the motifs really like coalesce and come together to shine through in this one track. And yes, I do consider this track a song. I know some people like don't consider it a song because like it doesn't really have a vocal like singing melody, and it doesn't really have any drums. It's like Tom York playing this very sad like piano line in the background with this digital, you know, that robotic android voice that's like saying these lines, right? And we're getting all these kind of like platitudes, right? Like fitter, happier, more productive, comfortable, not drinking too much, regular exercise, you know, eat well, safer car, get your wife and kids, like all these kind of like platitudes, right? And it's being told through this robot voice because it is emphasizing that in order to conform to these like expectations and be this like productive member of society and contribute right to the economy, we need to suppress ourselves, we need to strip ourselves of our individuality, we need to essentially kill our inner egos in order to turn into these robotic beings where we are, you know, falling in line with these societal expectations, right? And this line at the end really hits me, right? Like fitter, healthier, more productive, we lose the happier, right? So in stripping ourselves of our identity and stripping ourselves of our authenticity and forcing ourselves to fit within the conforms of the capitalist society that we are forced to partake in for our own survival, in doing so, we lose ourselves, we lose our happiness, and we turn into this pig in a cage with antibiotics, right? Like we turn into something that is trapped, artificially fed, fake healthy, right? Like these antibiotics are kind of like a fake healthy that we're making this pig. And essentially all that we're good for is slaughter, right? Like there's that Animal Farm kind of like comparison there, right? Where if all we are pigs, right? Pigs are like the only livestock animal that don't produce anything. Like they don't make milk, they don't make eggs. All that they're good for is their meat, right? And that's essentially the comparison that the speaker of this song is making to humanity. It's kind of acknowledging that at the end of the day, when society forces us into these expectations, it kind of turns us into these trapped pigs where all we're good for is our meat, and we lose our sense of freedom and authenticity and individuality. And yeah, I feel like I don't really have to say too much about this track. This track kind of speaks for itself in a lot of ways. It's just, in my opinion, just a really brilliant and beautiful way of doing that. Again, just sort of like really highlighting this contrast, this conflict, tension between technology and humanity, and the expectations that are forced upon us to like live in this capitalistic society. And yeah, I just feel like the song is so relevant and so resonant and so creative too. Like the use of the robot voice is so cool and unique, and the melody, the harmonies, the piano track in the background is so beautiful. Allegedly Tom York just like drunkenly played it one day and then they decided to use it in the album, which I think, if that's true, really again highlights this dichotomy between humanity and technology, right? Like even someone who is inebriated can kind of like create these very human sounding emotions conveyed through the piano in this way. So yeah, absolutely brilliant, absolutely beautiful track. And again, just really the thesis statement, in my opinion, for the album. Oops. Electioneering, I think, is typically not the favorite song on the album. I think a lot of people tend to put this as like their least favorite song on the album, and I would kind of say the same, honestly. It's not that I don't like this song, it's just kind of more similar to some of their older work. So like if this song ended up like on their previous album, like I think it wouldn't feel too out of place. But this song is also pretty straightforward. It's kind of just like an indictment on politicians. I think it's like the most outwardly political song on the album, because it's kind of like from the perspective of these politicians, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna say all the right things when I'm campaigning and electioneering, and I trust that I can rely on your vote. And I love how in this track, right, the lyrics will go, I go forwards, you go backwards. And during that vocal line, the music itself is kind of happening in opposition um to the vocal line. So like with the melodies here, right? Hold on. Come on. Okay, here we go. So the guitar track is like doing this descending, and then the vocal line, right, is like, you go backwards, so I just think that's so clever and so creative. Like, I go forwards, you go backwards, and then the actual like tracks are kind of doing the same thing, where the vocal line is going up and then the guitar line is going down, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's very clever. It's very cool, and I just think that that's so creative and such a fun thing to convey through this song. So even though this isn't my favorite song on the album, I think it's still really brilliant, and it's a lot of fun. It's got like that cowbell sound with the percussion, and it's a little bit more silly. It's got, again, that mocking tone that a lot of the other tracks on this album have towards the people that are in power, right? And I appreciate that we're getting at least like one kind of explicitly political song on this album. So yeah, really great track. All right. And then Climbing Up the Walls is also just like a brilliant track. I think that this one is probably the most like emotionally straightforward song on the album. It's not as kind of like ambivalent or nuanced, I think, as some of the other tracks on this album, but it's conveying an emotion that I think is not as common of an emotion that's conveyed in most contemporary popular music, right? Like this idea of paranoia and fear being the primary emotion that's being conveyed in this song. It's so powerful because the use of like the drum, this drum line, like if we just listen to the drums. It's got this kind of like very spacious, very echoey, very full of air kind of like texture to it. And I don't know, it just kind of like gives me this feeling of like I'm like kind of in an insane asylum, like I'm in an empty room with like all that's there is just like the corners of my thoughts that are like eating away at me. Like that's the feeling I get when I listen to this song. And like the drum really does that really well, and like the darker instrumentals really convey that really well. And the lyrics I think are pretty straightforward, right? Like this idea of anxiety, paranoia, fear, just kind of like being always in the back of your head, inside your skull, right? Just always ever present, like being there, climbing up the walls in your mind, right? Like I don't know. This song is just really cool, really creative, and really powerful in conveying that emotion of paranoia and fear. And I think like that's like the beauty of music sometimes, right? Like I think like beauty of art, beauty of music is that it doesn't necessarily always have to just be there for like, oh, it's entertaining, oh, it's like making me happy, oh, it's making me whatever. Like, it can be there to convey these like complex emotions, and it can be there to contribute to this conveyance of feeling, to hopefully, I guess, like have some empathy, right? Like, I think like the power of art in order to get you to feel something, even if that feeling is uncomfortable or scary or distressing, that's like a power of art that I feel gets so underrated and so acknowledged. Like, art doesn't always necessarily have to make you feel entertained or comfortable. Like, that's not always the primary goal of a piece of media. And I think like this song is such a testament to that, because like you listen to the song and it doesn't make you feel good. It doesn't make you feel like bopping and dancing around, but you know, you feel the song and you feel that anxiety and you feel that paranoia, and it gives you that sense of catharsis. It gives you that sense of, this is a feeling that I can sit with, right? And can help you process those feelings too. So I think like that's where music can be such a powerful conveyance for emotions and deliverance for those feelings that you can't necessarily acknowledge in a safe way through other means. Like, that's the beauty of art, is it gives you a safe place to experience these uncomfortable emotions and these distressing emotions in a way that gives you kind of a space to understand them and feel them without it being like life or death, you know. That's all I'll say about this song. This song is pretty straightforward. All right. And then, of course, we get to the big one, the most popular song on the album, one of the most popular songs of Radiohead in general. I think a lot of people know this song. And I think, again, that this is one of those songs that tends to get pretty misinterpreted. And I have an interpretation of this song that I think like goes a bit deeper, one layer deeper, than I think most people tend to read this, because I think like people see the song and they think it's a sad song, right? And like, yes, it is a very sad song, and the instrumentals, right, are very somber. They're very like lullaby like. There is almost kind of a comfort in the instrumentals as well too. There's like a warmth in the instrumentals that feels like it's trying to kind of like hug you in a weird way. But then, like, of course, you read the lyrics, and the lyrics just feel so sad and so tragic, right? Like, heart that's full up like a landfill, a job that slowly kills you, bruises that won't heal, you look tired, unhappy. And so there's like this, again, it's acknowledging these feelings of sadness, of loss of identity, of loss of sense of self, when you have to resign yourself to these systems, right? When you have to take a job, when you have to live in a world where the government doesn't speak for you, it can feel very depressing. And I think that the line that gets misinterpreted the most is this pre-chorus here, where it says, I'll take a quiet life, a handshake of carbon monoxide. And I think a lot of people see this line and interpret this as, oh, the narrator is so tired of their life that they are suicidal, that they want to go to a place where there's no alarms and no surprises. This will be their final bellyache, and then they're going to kill themselves, and that's the story of this song, right? Like, there's no, but that's not how I read this song. I tie this song back again to that idea of ego death, and that idea that the suppression of your true self is equating to a sense of death. There is a tragedy in giving up your individuality for the sake of conformity and survival, right? And in this system that we are forced to live in. And so, you know, there's this line here that in the pre-chorus that says, such a pretty house, such a pretty garden, right? And it's kind of acknowledging or hearkening back to, you know, the white picket fence, the pristine suburban life that we're all supposed to be aiming towards. This life of quiet, this life of no alarms and no surprises, right? This life of we're all just sort of following a script that is laid out in front of us and predetermined for us already. And in following that script, I'm making a deal. I'm making a deal that there's not going to be any stress, there's not going to be any harm, there's not going to be any alarms or surprises. But in making that deal, I'm essentially killing my own individuality and killing my own identity in order to resign myself and accept myself to this fate of not being alarmed or surprised anymore. And, you know, we get this kind of echo right at the very end, right? No alarms, no surprises, get me out of here, let me out of here, right? So there is this conflict, there is this like desperation, right? There's this acknowledgement that on one level, the pain of life can be assuaged a little bit by killing this part of ourselves in order to follow the script, in order to fall in line, in order to be what society expects of us, while at the same time acknowledging that there is a loss, there is a part of ourselves that we have to essentially kill and cut off in order to fit into this mold that has been laid out in front of us. And that to me is what this song is about. It's about giving up that sense of identification, that sense of individuality, that sense of self that this narrator is equating to what being alive is for. And in giving that up, we are trading it instead for this sense of peace, for this resolution, for this acceptance, for this surrender to these systems that are pre-laid out in front of us that we can't speak against, right? The government that doesn't speak for us. Yeah, so that's how I read this song, and that's how I interpret it. And I feel like that's a much more interesting and fits along more with like the themes of the album, right? Because I feel like, you know, obviously like suicide and death is a theme that Radiohead talks about quite a bit. But I don't think that they are a depressing, like, it's not like their music is depressing in the sense of like life is so hard and so sad and I want to kill myself. Like, that's not what this song is about. This song is about how we are already dying in the types of lives that we're living in society and the compromises that we have to make with ourselves in order to find a sense of peace within these systems. So that's my interpretation. I would love to hear if anyone else has any other interpretations of this song, just because this is such a widely popular and regarded song. But yeah, would love to hear all of your guys' thoughts as well too. This is one of my favorite Radiohead songs. I know it's very overplayed and it's very memed a lot at this point, but this is, I think, probably the first Radiohead song that I heard, and definitely the one that pulled me into the band in general. Like, I did hear Creep, thought it was great, and then I heard the song and I was like, oh, okay, this is really something special. Like, this is really beautiful, really emotional, really resonant with me. And yeah, sure, it's one of the most overplayed songs of all time, but I think for good reason. It's a beautiful song. It's a great emotional, cathartic feeling to have this feeling of sadness, of tragedy. And I think anyone who thinks that this song is too depressing or boring or whatever is just wrong. Like, it's beautiful. Like, the chord progressions are so simple yet so resonant and so yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's just a great song. It's beautiful, absolutely awesome. Really love this song a lot and deserves all the praise that it gets. All right. So the song Lucky is probably the song, it's probably like my favorite Radiohead song that I forget exists. Like, it's such an awesome song. It's such a beautiful song, and it's so cool and clever the way that it plays with the chord progressions. You know, when it goes like we're standing on the edge, and then it like kind of pauses there, and it gives you this feeling of like you're being suspended like in the air, right? Like I'm actually gonna find that part of the track here. This part. Oh, it's just so cool. Like, you know, it gives you that feeling of like you're actually on the edge of a cliff, right? Like you're standing right there on the edge, and then when that guitar like comes back in at the edge, it just like gives you this plummeting feeling, like, yes, like we've fallen off, we've hit the bottom, and then we're gonna keep going. And it's just like, it's very cool, it's very creative, and it's like a very interesting way to give that feeling of like suspension, right? And you know, this song is more or less right about how like, yes, I'm really lucky, yes, I've like gotten these big things that have happened to me, right? It's gonna be a glorious day. I think this is also kind of like harkening back to those themes in Airbag, right? Of like, yeah, fuck yeah, I survived this epic car crash, and I'm back to save the universe, right? I think there's a lot of those same feelings, right? Like I'm your superhero. It's a glorious day. I'm so lucky, right? But there's this acknowledgement, right, of like we're standing on the edge. This could be gone at any moment, right? And that is also explored, right, in Karma Police, right, where like, oh, we hate these people, we hate these privileged elite people, but at the same time I acknowledge that like I am losing myself a little bit here, I'm losing my temper, I could also be someone who gets the Karma Police called on them, right? So there's this acknowledgement, right, this frustration, this anger, this need for kind of like revenge or whatever against these people, but then an acknowledgement that like it can happen to you as well, and you can also like lose your luck at any point, and you are standing on the edge and could be plummeted at any moment, right? So that's what I think that this song is about. It's about like feeling this luck, feeling this luckiness, but also this acknowledgement that it could disappear at any moment, and living in that precariousness, right? Like what does it feel like to live in that space where everything could just be gone at a moment's notice? And then lastly, we get the last track here on the album, The Tourist. It's not one of my favorite Radiohead songs of all time, but I do think that this is like the perfect ending to this album. Because basically the song was inspired by, I think it was like Tom York and Johnny, who were like traveling, and they just like noticed these tourists, right? Like rushing from place to place and not really taking the time to stop and smell the flowers. And of course, like when extrapolated to the like extrapolating that metaphor to the greater journey of life, right? Again, there's that theme of transit, of travel, like traveling between places, being in a rush, right, to get from point A to point B, when maybe the journey is the more important thing along the way. I think that's what this song is really about here, you know. Hey man, slow down, idiot, slow down, right? And I think like that is such a beautiful cherry on top to wrap this entire album up. This album that has acknowledged, right, like the rat race of capitalism, the expeditious development of technology, and how like that is causing us to speed through things really quickly and try to get to the end and try not to, you know, acknowledge the journey as we go along. And I think that this song is just like a nice little reminder, right? Like, hey, stop, slow down, smell the flowers. And just because like life and technology and capitalism and society is developing and moving at such a pace that is so fast that we can't really keep up with it, that doesn't mean that we have to force ourselves and rush ourselves to a point where we are not enjoying the journey, right? Like if life is a journey, if you're rushing through it, all that's going to do is get you to the end faster. And what does the end look like, right? That's just death. So it's really not about trying to get to the end point. It's about really getting to the really enjoying the journey and really like slowing down and acknowledging all of that. So I think, like, you know, despite all the pessimism and all of the desperation and surrender and the resignation that we get throughout this entire album, I think that this song is such a beautiful like capstone to leave you in a place of hope. Like, yes, it is kind of like ribbing you a little bit, like, yeah, hey idiot, slow down, right? Like, this is probably the most beautiful way that you'll be called an idiot, though, because it is just so emotional in the sense of like it's reminding you to acknowledge these things and to slow down in this way. So yeah, absolutely beautiful track, and it might actually be my favorite ending track of any Radiohead album. Like, I think that this track does the best job at wrapping up and ending and tying together the themes and the feelings and emotions of this album the best out of like any of their albums that I've listened to so far. So yeah, definitely love this song. Definitely think that it's super powerful when it comes to conveying that message. And yeah, just a nice little reminder and a nice message to give after the kind of like tragedy and pessimism and surrender that we've gotten throughout the entire rest of the album. So really beautiful capstone there, and a perfect way to wrap up the album. Again, so I'm going to be wrapping up the stream now soon. I do just want to refresh my fundraiser one more time. I'm not sure if we got any additional donations that have come in the meantime. Unfortunately not. We still are ending the stream at $35 raised, but that's still a lot. That's still, you know, plenty of money that can be done to do some great things. You know, I told a story at the beginning of the stream of tossing the starfish back into the ocean, and you know, every dollar counts, every starfish counts, every human life counts. So these $35 I really appreciate, and I'm super grateful to everyone who donated and to everyone who shared the fundraiser. I'm going to keep the fundraiser up and open for a little while longer, so if folks still want to go ahead and donate to it, you are welcome to do so. I will just keep it open so that anyone can donate and contribute to the fundraiser as they see fit. I'm not sure how long I will keep like the goals and stuff open. I might keep some of the like character drawing or like the polls for choosing the videos and stuff open, so that like if we do reach these goals and thresholds later on in the future, I might open up those polls and stuff at that point, even if we didn't, you know, get to it during the stream today. Yeah, I think I definitely had some lofty expectations and some lofty goals, which is helping me learn for the future what I should do for next time that we do a fundraiser stream, because this is definitely not going to be the last one. I definitely want to do this again. So lessons learned for next time. But seriously, thank you to everyone who donated so far. Thank you to everyone who contributed to the fundraiser. And thank you for helping me and helping all of us use the tools at our disposal to fight back against the systems and the tyranny that we feel can oftentimes be impossible to fight up against, but knowing that every little bit that we do can make a difference and does make a difference, hopefully is at least a little bit empowering to some people and a little bit inspiring for you to take action and not always resign yourself to hopelessness, and to do your best to fight back and do what you can with the tools that you have available and the privileges that you have to help the people in the world who are struggling and don't have those privileges and don't have those advantages. So with all of that said, thank you all so much. I am starting to lose my wind and lose my steam here. But just a huge thank you to everyone again who donated and who hung out during the stream today. It really means a lot to me. Thank you all so much. Oh, of course, we gotta talk about next week too, or next month too. So for next month, I have decided what our what our media of the month is going to be. And because it is a Halloween month, it is October, I decided to do something that's tangentially related to something spooky, but I also wanted to do something that was going to be a little bit easier for me to talk about. I put a lot of work and thought and effort into this month's stream, especially with the fundraiser aspect of it. So I want to take next month a little bit easier and go back to doing something that I can easily talk about with a little less preparation work. And so I'm going to be talking about a book that came out this year. Oh my God, the image is not showing up. That is really annoying. Let me go ahead and just pull it up on another tab. So the book that we're going to be talking about next month is a book called Slayers, Every One of Us by Jenny Owen Youngs and Kristen Russo. So what this book is about, as you can kind of guess, it is tangentially related to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but it is a book about a podcast. So Kristen Russo and Jenny Owen Youngs, they are two women who started this podcast called Buffering the Vampire Slayer. They started it, I want to say back in like 2016, 2015, 2016, around that time. And they have talked about every episode of Buffy every, week for several years, right? And they did end up finishing the series, and now they actually even recently restarted the podcast and they're going back through the series again. But I have been a big fan of their podcast for many years. I've been following their journey as they've been talking about Buffy, and the two of them as well too, like Kristen and Jenny, they have a very beautiful, powerful story as well, which is why they decided to write the book about making the podcast. Kristen and Jenny were actually married when they first started the podcast, and by the time they got to like season 4, as they were continuing on the podcast, they actually ended up getting divorced and had to navigate their relationship and their friendship and their work relationship as they decided, like, hey, even though we're getting divorced, we think that the podcast and the work that we're doing is still so important and so meaningful that we are going to try to preserve our friendship for the sake of continuing this project. And like that journey and that story of theirs is so beautiful and so inspiring and so meaningful to me. And I've been following them, as the years have gone on, and admittedly have a little bit of this parasocial relationship with them where I care about them a lot as people and as artists and creatives. And so I haven't had a chance to sit and read the book yet because I just haven't gotten around to it, but I feel like this is a good opportunity to force me to finally get around to reading it and to also just share and yap about one of my favorite podcasts and what they have done for me and what it means to me. I'm not really going to be talking too much about like Buffy itself or Buffy the show. I'm more so going to be talking about the podcast, and of course like Buffy is going to come up as it relates to things. But for next month's media of the month, I think it's going to be more so like if you want to join in on the discussion, or if you want to know like what I'm talking about, I think the book is going to be a better place to start than trying to like watch the show or listen to the podcast or anything like that. So that's going to be what we talk about next time, and that stream is of course going to be the last Sunday of October, so October 26th 2025. On that Sunday we'll be starting at noon Pacific time, and yeah, I think it'll just be an easy little discussion telling the story of my favorite podcasts and kind of how they inspired me and what they mean to me, and my own personal journey as I have like rewatched Buffy as an adult through this lens, through this medium of analysis, through this podcast. That was a very profound experience for me over the past several years, and so that's what I want to talk about next time on the stream. So hopefully you guys will all join me for that. It should be a good time. If you want to check out the book, highly recommend it, and of course I'll be posting more about it on the community tab this weekend as well too, so keep your eyes out for that. But I think that's pretty much it for today. I know this was definitely a long one, definitely a dense one with lots of heavy discussion, but I had a lot of fun. I really love this album, OK Computer, and despite the fact that I don't agree with Radiohead's views on Israel and Zionism and their take on Palestine. That's why it was really important for me that if I was going to be talking about them and going to be acknowledging their work and praising their work and talking about them in that way, that I was also going to acknowledge the human side of things and do my best to kind of counteract against that narrative, which is why we did the fundraiser this time around. And yeah, just want to say thank you all again so much for helping me in contributing to that. It really means a lot and really warms my heart just to its very core. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Deeply appreciate it. Anyone who's still watching or listening in chat, thank you so much for sticking with me these several hours, hearing me out, hearing me yap about one of my favorite albums of all time. Really, genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I know I've said thank you a lot, especially at the end here, but I really just want to emphasize how grateful I am and how much this means to me. And yeah, I really don't take it lightly at all. So seriously, thank you so much. We'll see you all next month. Stay safe and take care, everyone. Until next time, bye-bye.